The witch grabbed her head and told the boy not to try to perform too hard, because they would not be able to cover all his mistakes. People were waiting for some positive information from the new hero. If the audience didn't like his performance, no one could control the press. But our hero realized that there was no calmer person than him. He considered himself a visionary, although he was really referring to his skills. He walked up to the microphone, checked its performance, and introduced himself. "I am the hunter, known as the King of Death. I'm glad to meet everyone." But a reporter came up and introduced himself as Jones Evans. The reporter said yes without question. The guy looked the reporter in the eye and saw fire in the reflection of his eyes. They looked at each other so intently. Kim said that he had sown anxiety in people's souls because he was not good enough. He decides to use a tactic against the elderly spirit, an absolute counterattack. He reiterates that the anxiety came from his shortcomings. He didn't have the Black Dragon's head, but he had knowledge that others didn't have. The interview with the world's most amazing hunter took place when the elderly spirit was telling us how cool he was and how he cleared the 20th floor, calling everyone suckers. He positioned himself as a conqueror, without straining, defending everything and knowing everything. At the moment when the elderly spirit was being interviewed, he approached the reporter and asked who else he would give the good he had cleared away to. Perhaps to his mother or father. The second name for this incident was Papasha. After this interview, the head of the Black Dragon urgently ended the conference. The summer spirit added fuel to the fire among reporters, and scenes with insults to parents, wife, and foul language were broadcast through live broadcasts and streams. Although he tried his best and achieved a good result, the number of casualties was 0. He did not consider it his feat. Clenching his fist, he said he was only doing his duty as a hunter. He was not going to defend his privileges, so he transferred the rights to the 11th and 19th floors to the guild. These floors have become a kind of green belt zone where the local citizens of the tower live, and he was quite satisfied with the management role on these floors. After these words, he told the reporter Evans that he was done with his interview. The reporter closed his mouth after his speech because the answers were very high quality. He was expecting provocations. Our hero thanked him and gave others the opportunity to ask questions, because he didn't have much time and might not have time to answer all of them. Soon, a barrage of questions hit Kim, and his strategy of backtracking was successful. His opposite, the summer spirit, always did the opposite. When the summer spirit refused to answer the question, our hero answered clearly and concisely. The next question came from a newspaper, and they didn't stop there, because the opening of the tower would begin in 5 minutes. Although the reporters did not stop, the witch decided to shut them up, because she realized that they were all interested in learning more about the new hero. But there was no time left. Everyone is told that their day off has come to an end, and they are going back to clearing the tower. They realize that people need them. Their support is important. This time they will try their best to avoid casualties. But the brazen reporter still raised his hand, and asked one last question in the end. "Do the Black Dragon Head and the Death King have any relationship?" The girl noticed that the boy was embarrassed by this question. She said that their relationship was more than friendship. They were comrades in arms. But no one heard the comrades in arms part. They were only interested in the more than friendship part. She wanted to avoid misunderstandings or misinterpretations. That was the end of the Black Dragon's press conference. The girl once again thanked everyone for their attention and support. At this point, she left without explaining her last statement. The guy tried to ignore all the previous statements in order not to answer and not to create an information occasion. She heated up the frying pan and left right away. That's how the reporters reacted to her words. But she wanted drama. After all, tense moments are best remembered. At the end, the guy follows her and asks himself if she is the head of the guild that runs the tower. When they were backstage, the girl exhaled heavily from the tension. She was proud of our hero. It was perfect. He answered 100%. It was so brilliant and the right behavior that it was the best course in his journey. People like heroes, but they like those who stand before them with an open mind the most. At the same time, he did not look like a simpleton. It was just wonderful. She hadn't expected him to have a talent for managing public opinion. "What have you been doing before if you've just appeared now?" she thought. She said that if he needed something, he could tell her right away. Money, support, fame. If it was in the tower, she would get it for him. The guy replied that everything was fine, holding her hand. But what she meant by the words, "a comrade in arms is more than friends," really surprised him. The girl looked away and said that it was nothing special. She was just creating a smokescreen. But the press would still blow up a romantic relationship even if it didn't exist, and it would be safer for her. This is some kind of strategy, thought our hero. The girl reassured him once again, telling him not to worry. She has been fighting public opinion on her own for many years and can fully trust him in this area. People are holding their breath, waiting for the countdown to the opening of new missions in the tower. Everyone is watching closely to see what the organizers have prepared for them, because there are only 5 seconds left. Soon, a hologram of a goddess appears in the sky, addressing the conquering warriors in the tower and congratulating them on overcoming difficulties and filling the Demon King's resentment. At this moment, the rear spirit is watching all this and tells the boy to be more vigilant than ever. There is no time to rest, as a completely different scene unfolds on the 21st floor. The goddess informs them that they could have stayed forever on the ground floor of the tower. They could have refused the challenge and chosen a peaceful life. However, they decided to go up 10-20 floors to see with their own eyes what is at the top of this tower. In this case, the tower would fairly respond to their aspiration. At this point, the girl and Kim begin to move to the 21st floor. The other hunters also notice that they are moving to the upper levels of the tower without a word. Everyone, even those who were not aware of the events, are also moved, and notice that it is happening forcibly. The goddess informs them that the people who decided to go up gladly accepted the new name and became the tower's soldiers. Since then, only the chosen warriors have been called upon to perform noble duties. Soon, everyone moves to this legendary 21st floor. They are met by a young man dressed in a white robe. He welcomes the warriors to the tower, noting that the anxiety of this humble steward was so great that one day here would last 3 years. The guy levitates in the air and a bunch of different books float behind him. He welcomes hunters to the library of the great hunters. He sweetly greets everyone who comes up in the tower and says that life is a process that begins with an encounter and ends with it. If you think about it, the meaning of life is not in the sequence of events, but in meeting people. Waiting only adds flavor to life, like a seasoning to a dish. The system informs them that they are being greeted by the library manager. His greeting was rather strange, demanding that they observe the etiquette of his library of fictional worlds. The hunters were shocked by his appearance. Some of them were not ready to move. Some were taking a shower, and some were sleeping and barely opened their eyes. The boy, seeing that he had moved people even from the shower, admits his mistake, that he was not attentive enough. He quickly throws a black robe over the man, who was not wearing any clothes. This, of course, is a relief for him, but he still feels sorry for the people who did not expect such a development. The witch comes closer to the man and asks him who he is. He replies that he is a humble steward, a nameless, inconspicuous man, just the manager of the Black Witch's great library. If you compare him to people, he is a creature more like a completely unimportant third-party character. He would prefer that they treat him as a creature of no importance at all. The girl followed him closely, and when they looked around, they saw a real huge library, although this guy only called it a little big library. According to the hunters, it was not just a library, but a whole world of books. A breeze blew through the steward's hair, and he was happy to be recognized in his library. But when he saw the King of Death, he flew to him to make sure that he was the real thing. Saying that there was no need to be wary, the humble steward only wanted to greet him. To him, the Death King was an epic hero, and when the others heard the word, they did not understand what it meant. This steward began to circulate around him various books, which contained chronicles of the Empire, hymns, and his hobby was reading books. The collection of books in this library was quite unusual. These books were related to the worlds where the tower was built, and their history. They wondered why they were recognized out of a large number of warriors. The reason was simple. Only their worlds had the names of the characters. This book contains 302 people. These warriors had nicknames, and only the hunters who received a second name were called. The witch was amazed that they would now have to clear the tower with only so many people, but the steward told them not to worry, because they would manage, just as the 3 of them had done in their empire. And 300 people is more than 300 times the number needed to clear the tower. Our hero suggested that they start the quest as soon as possible. He understands that everyone is worried, but for a long time, he has gotten used to people, and even though they want to climb up quickly, he wants to talk. He was so happy to see them that he forgot about the quest. He will explain everything well and clearly to each hunter so that everyone understands. Various books began to fly around him. He handed them to the hunters and told them which one would move them the most. He said that the apocalypse is very boring, and there is too much calm destruction. The steward chose a book for his quest. Taking one of them, he warned everyone in advance. When he opened the book, everything was filled with light, and his warnings sounded so that no one would be too scared. This light filled the city, covering it with an unknown moment, and it felt like they were moving somewhere. The steward was also moving with them. He said that the records collected in his library are not just books. We can say that they are on a completely different level. The great library of fictional worlds has a name that speaks for itself. It contains records from many worlds. For example, in one hand they hold a book from a conquered world, and in the other hand they hold their own world. These books can be called in different ways. For some, they are epics. For others, they are chronicles. Some call them chronicles or sagas, but their humble steward prefers another name. He calls it simply the apocalypse. His eyes are directed to the cloudy sky above one of the cities. Your apocalypse, he begins, is just a long prologue that is coming to an end. And now, we are gradually rising. You could say we're in the part of the book where the story starts to taste good. However, not all apocalypses are safely in progress, and the hunters are looking at this world. After this phrase, everything is filled with a huge explosion that covers the space. The steward explains that he understands that if the apocalypse is interrupted, this world is not the only one where the explosion destroyed all history. Holding up one of the books, which shines with fateful rays, the steward says that many worlds are like this. There are different reasons why the apocalypse ended. For example, for one it was fire, for another it was water. A large wave washed away huge cities and took the lives of many people. It was extremely tragic. The protagonists of some apocalypses lived as they did, reached the right conclusion, and created a grandiose ending. Unfortunately, everything ended up being infinitely unfair. At this point, the manager closes the book. Even though for him, it is only a cessation of production, people living in these worlds call it destruction. The hunters, being in this state to which the steward brought them, were shocked and could not even think that such a thing could exist at this stage. The rear spirit realizes that there is nothing surprising in this nausea, because they are continuously shown things that are very difficult for an ordinary person to endure. Soon, the respected host is told that his quest is very simple. In response, he offers everyone to choose an interrupted apocalypse. They will choose 8 destroyed worlds, and he only wants to read this apocalypse to the end. The main task is to continue studying the history of world destruction. Each hunter will personally enter one of the 8 apocalypses and save them from the threat of termination. They need to personally enter the 8 worlds and stop the destruction. This is the quest of your humble steward. The name of the quest is Recycled World, Multiple Worlds, Multiple Destruction. You need to choose one of the apocalypses where history was interrupted. If they save this world, they will be credited with clearing the 22nd floor. If they fail, the floor will never open. After that, the quest began, and after a long stay in space and seeing the horrors that took place in apocalyptic cities, the hunters fell to the ground. The manager saw that the hunters had spit on his floor and were not going to clean it up. Where is their decency? Only by working together can we keep the library clean. He claps his hands. Bookmarks from books appear, which surprisingly have arms, legs, and even a broom to clean the library. In another way, he calls them made bookmarks, and they will kindly clean the floor and serve coffee to the hunters all this time, until the 30th floor is cleared. The witch asks, "For starters, they're not maids. They're monsters, right?" The steward covers his mouth and smiles at the hunters, letting them think that they are. But the main thing the hunters need to know is that while they are here, they must follow the rules. Never touch the books without his permission. He collected this collection with blood and sweat, and each apocalypse exists in only one copy in the entire universe. One of the hunters was impressed by this small steward. Holding his sword in his hands, he started to get angry and laugh at the same time because this guy was the boss of the monsters on this floor. The kid looked at him and smiled, and the hunter continued, drawing his weapon. Quests are some bullshit. We'll deal with it and protect everything up to the 30th floor. This cocky hunter is pointing his finger at the Death King, showing that he cleared the 20th floor by himself, and they can definitely defeat some kid. Is there anything they can't handle? Apparently not. All the hunters set their sights on our hero. But soon one of the hunters noticed that there were 5 major guilds present. He began to get indignant, saying that he really didn't like the way they had divided the 11th floor among themselves and brought a newcomer to play the main character. "This is my hunter," the boy said. Hearing these words, the witch closes his mouth and orders him to think about who he is talking to. Kim takes her hand and squeezes it to calm the girl down, because she has to hold back. The girl can't understand why he stopped her. Because if you let people like that do what they want, they will do anything. But the guy said only one phrase: "We're live now." The witch did not immediately understand what he meant. The guy was from the future. When the 30th floor was being cleared in his world, He was actively watching it. Now there is a live broadcast of video games on the square. If you remember what the constellation says, we are the characters here. And of course, where there are characters, there will be readers watching them. If she shows herself to be unfavorable, it will be remembered for a lifetime. In fact, in this scene, it's not so important how you clean it up, the girl realized, and the boy agreed with her. Now they are in a large work of the Great Library, and the system reports that it is happy to see the King of Death. He receives a message that the award for clearing the 20th floor is given to him. The reward for a normal scene is the blessing of the God of Beauty, which allows him to observe the level of interest of the characters from the 20th to the 30th floor. He is also given the blessing of the God of Snakes, which allows him to observe the thoughts of the characters on the 30th floor. The guy is excited about these skills. It was cool. Looking at the witch, he decided to test the new features. As soon as he said character window, he saw the main interesting moments from the witch's life. Her romantic preferences, many interesting details, her unloved subjects, and even her thoughts. The girl didn't understand why he was looking at her like that, so she paid attention to him. She asked what was wrong with him. The guy, in a stupor, replied that it was nothing special, he was just looking. But the rear spirit, realizing the curiosity of this situation, laughed. The rear spirit could not help but laugh because of the girl's thoughts. It was extremely funny. But Kim looked at the spirit and opened its character window as well. The rear spirit realized that the guy had used a skill on him. The guy read his mind, and the spirit thought, "Shit, it works on me too." He also looked at his genre preferences, and he was shocked because the rear spirit was quite boring. The rear spirit lost his temper and promised to kill the guy for using this skill on him. He ordered the guy to get out of his brain, otherwise he would tear it to shreds. Kim laughed, saying that by the 30th floor he would be able to read his mind and open the skill window whenever he wanted. The spirit promised that it would show who would control whom. The hunters who were in the library were already tense enough, seeing the library manager as a villain. As they were about to carry out their plan, the Holy Spirit interrupted their conversation, asking if they had forgotten about the destroyed worlds that were shown in the constellation. He reminded them that they could be thrown into a world like that, and they would still pick a fight even after seeing it. If they planned a group suicide, he would not interfere with them. But the brazen hunter said, "Don't be afraid. The Death King passed the 10th and 20th floors alone. All monster bosses are the same. All the big guilds are just crooks. If they're going to tail them, then let them go." The manager asked if the hunters were done talking, but the brazen hunter didn't slow down. He claimed that this boss of monsters was only a 1-meter tall kid. Soon, after hearing these words, the manager, who does not like cliches, decided to get it over with as soon as possible. Holding the book in his hands, he prepared to act. He walked toward the hunters, and dark tentacles appeared from an unknown space, which began to grab the hunters like mushrooms and pull them right into the book. After that, the steward showed who he really was, and said that in the apocalyptic world everything was destroyed. Humanity was, and there was only one magician left who survived. As a result of numerous adversities, the magician has become more like a monster with tentacles than a human being. He often runs to the protagonist, ranking about 9th in the top of favorite characters. The technique of this magician is based on the magic of seals. He has a special relationship with the library manager, who sometimes offers him ingredients as payment. The magician gladly fulfills his requests. After these words, the library manager opens a portal from which the housewives' bookmarks fall out. When they teleported out of the portal and fell into this world, they looked around widely. The magician's hobby was to put maids' costumes on his creations, so bookmarks' housemaids appeared in the library. After all of humanity had been destroyed except for him, and it would be strange if he had retained his sanity. The girl was amazed at the power of this unpredictable boss. He said that it had become cleaner, and unnecessary secondary characters had been dealt with. He approaches the girl, looks her in the eye, and asks if they have a desire to become the main characters. Despite all this, we had to complete the level. The hunters sat near a large mountain of books and waited in anticipation for a mission to be chosen. The Inquisitor noticed that they had just started and had already knocked out 50 people. It was hard work, but advancement always requires sacrifice, and they were putting their efforts into these sacrifices. The hunters were afraid, holding on to their legs, because they had just almost lost 100 people, but it cost them 50. It was incredible luck. The Inquisitor enjoyed his stay on this floor, drinking coffee endlessly, which was brought by bookmarks. He wondered why no one else was drinking this coffee but him. But Kim turned to him and told him to shut up. because the more he talked, the more his morale would drop. If this is a problem, the Inquisitor, as a heretic, will gladly shut him up. Kim got up and realized the essence of the quest. You can't rashly attack the constellations, you can just calmly follow the quest issued by the library manager. He realized that he was now in third place in the top. And as a hunter with the third strongest right-wing opinion, he needed to get used to the oblique looks. He continued to lead and tell his vision for this quest, believing that it would not become burdensome. The guy recommended that we take a close look at the quest window again. There was a main point there. If the hunters successfully save the world, this world will be counted as the 22nd floor. And the most important thing it says is the last part. The reward can vary depending on which world they save. For example, if they save a world full of diamonds, that world will become their 22nd floor. A diamond is just an example. What about a world rich in various resources, water, food, self-sufficiency? Now they can solve the food problem even without the help of the outside world. Here's the thing. A guy takes a book, but he needs to be very careful because anything can happen. As soon as the boy opened the book, the other hunters jumped out of their seats, but nothing happened. The steward noticed that the book had been taken without his knowledge, and everything was fine until the apocalypse ability was activated. They were just ordinary books. He had safely hidden the forbidden books, which can be dangerous even with a simple touch. Kim realized everything when he put the meaningless book back. He said to his fellow hunters, "Come here and read the books. We need to choose the ones that we can pass and that will benefit us." This was the task of the tower. We move into a world that opens scenes from the 12th floor of the tower. This is the story of Sorvan Academy, an ancient magical academy where friendship and rivalry, love and equality alternate. This apocalypse could have remained a standard story about learning. If only the academy's dungeons were not sealed with an artifact that could destroy the world. The content of this book was as follows. It turns out that his soulmate had always been here. It was a girl named Sylvia. She was his soulmate, and their love knew no bounds. But one fine day, a magical artifact got into the academy. A demon appeared which, like a plague, fell on the two of them and destroyed their world. The novel, which had been read with great interest, suddenly ended, and any reader would have exploded with anger. Oh, what a horror. The complexity and content, you should choose among them those that we can pass and still benefit from, Kim said to his hunting friends. The indifference of the hunters was evident, as they looked at him without motivation. The rear spirit decided to cheer the guy up, saying that he had misunderstood the point. They are acting like this because you are using too much formal language. Don't you know that hunters are quite simple? Now you are responsible for 250 hunters, and they can listen to you well if you address them informally. And every time you raise your level, your pride only grows. The higher the level of a hunter, the more exalted his pride should be. Don't listen to others. Be deaf. The guy choked and took himself by the throat. He exploded his energy, shouting, "How am I supposed to read 100 apocalypses alone?" He orders the hunters to split into groups. Those who have read something to the left, and those who don't know what a novel or story is to the right. And quickly, the reading people split into groups according to their favorite genres, and the bookmark waiters held different genres. Mystery, Murim. The library manager was just admiring the view, and our hero continued. There are no people here who behave historically. There are so many people here, but they are all lazy. He hits a book with his hand and says, "Read it quickly." They should know that apocalypses are categorized by genre. Group up and read, and then decide if what you read is shit or fucking awesome. Our hero responded to the raised hand of a heretic who asked the King of Death that he did not know what a shitty work was. Our hero gave an example of a shitty work. It's called She Survived the Volcano. This world was devastated by a nuclear war, but people survived. The protagonist and his beloved decided to become the new Adam and Eve after a lot of events. The reason for stopping this issue was that the couple found themselves in the zone of an active volcano on the last day, and humanity was destroyed. And what to make of this is the main idea. What are they going to do in a world full of radiation like the 22nd floor? In addition, the summer spirit only protected areas with magma or volcanoes until the 29th floor, because it was immune to fire. It only took a little effort, and 8 treasures would appear in the tower. The boy realized how hypocritical he had been, and how he had not paid attention to other people. Recalling this in his head, he turned to the hunters. Just read and save the world, it's quite profitable. The witch joined a mysticism group and watched the boy closely. The boy realized that the witch was well versed in romantic novels and asked her if she really liked mysticism. The witch replied while drinking coffee, "I'm an intellectual girl." Our hero understood that the witch did not want to show that she was a fan of romance, and noticed that there were very few people in the romance group, while the Murama group was full of male hunters. These people, even in the current situation, try to seem like something more, and it turns out that high-level hunters try to live with pride. Our hero asks the Dragonhead to change his group. He does not want to reveal the secrets of his skill, and tells her that he has always considered her a rather romantic person. He had always thought so, and was surprised that she did not join that group. The girl looked at him with a mystical look. She was shocked that she was perceived as a romantic or romantic-inclined person. To this, Kim replies, "Yes, of course, so much so that it seems unnatural that you are in a different group." The girl sitting next to him put the cup down for the waitress and smiled. She takes responsibility because the King of Death said so she won't argue. She says she's never read a romance, but she might as well take the chance and challenge herself. This was just incredible, according to the Inquisitor. It had never happened before that the head of the Black Dragon would get up if she sat down somewhere, but our hero noticed that the Inquisitor had also chosen a mystical group. He replied that he knew Sherlock Holmes and Dr. Watson, but when he opened his character window, he noticed that the Inquisitor preferred fairy tales and legends. Kim realized that this man's inner world corresponds to his outer world. The Inquisitor even began to worry that his appearance was not interesting to Kim. Kim sent him to a group with fairy tales, because he realized that it would be better. In one of these groups, he had to show responsibility, and the Inquisitor was shocked that he would have to take on so many responsibilities. The Inquisitor promised that he would learn everything perfectly. Kim laughed and smiled because there was no fairy tale, nor was there any apocalypse that would end with the end of the world. After a long time of dividing everyone into groups, the guy took his head. There were 111 people in front of him, and 151 could lie about their preferences. They were all psycho hunters. Kim had one last person to test. He was a rather interesting character, with preferences for isekai, imba, and harem, and he was quite unusual. Kim didn't know where to put him, but after some thought, he realized that it was the 6th in the top tower at the moment. It was the head of the Thousand Guild, and after reading his thoughts, Kim noticed that Poison Snake hadn't landed there. Poisonous Snake was a true connoisseur of quite rare art. He noticed that Kim was watching him, but he didn't understand why he was paying attention to him, because he was busy reading. Kim did not expect him to be the Emperor of Light novels, and decided not to bother him. Everyone who read these apocalypses already had the idea that their eyes would soon explode. Kim asked her what was wrong. She replied that she knew about the apocalypses, the production of which was stopped at the climax. At the moment of the main character's appointment, a meteorite falls. When they are finally about to kiss, aliens appear, and everything is destroyed again. And from that moment on, everything stopped. This story was wild and interesting, and it was even more disgusting, like when you are served a perfect dish, but when you start cutting it, suddenly something nasty falls out. At that moment, Kim was just eating, and he asked the girl not to say the word "fall out" when he was eating. She told the King of Death that she could be delicate, but she had to say what exactly fell out. But Kim reminded her that they were on live TV and it was better not to say such things. The girl thought he was even boring, but she had to continue. She decided to tell him everything in a whisper in his ear. At that moment, he even threw away his sandwich because he was no longer hungry. The library manager watched these people and probably began to realize that they were also beginning to understand his pain. All of these people were represented by 683 apocalypses, the best in his large library, books with a special destructive power. They were wild and interesting, and because of this, they could not help but fascinate the reader. But these books were as interesting as they were unfortunate, because all the recommended books ended horribly. The witch asked the manager, "Did you deliberately give us such works to cause us so much pain?" The steward replied with a wave of his hand, "Yes, now you will also go to the hell of the interrupted issue, flounder around like me in endless freedom." They had deliberately forced the top interrupted stories to be read, and the hunters were amazed that they were receiving heavenly punishment from these books. He waved his hand and turned to Kim. Soon Kim saw that it was not the steward, but an alchemist who also received the nickname. He was impressed and happy to see the head of the Alchemy Guild. He told her that she was really incredible, but asked her how she had gotten the nickname in such a short period of time. She replied that it was nothing special, and she was not exaggerating. A few days ago, she heard that her creation had helped save the world, and she immediately got the nickname. She really didn't understand the reason, but the guy realized that it was because of the miraculous medicine she made for him. It made it clear that he had proven himself to the tower. He told her once again that she was incredible, but she disagreed, believing that he was the one who was incredible, not her. In just a few days, he had risen to 3rd place in the ranking, and she was incredibly honored to know such a person. The guy was embarrassed, scratching his head, and said he was just lucky. The alchemist said that if he needed anything, he should definitely tell her, and she would help him in any way she could. Soon, the Marima group had read everything. The romance group had also finished everything, and the mysticism group had also finished, even the fantasy group. Kim said, "Let each group talk about the recommended books." From the fairy tale group, the Inquisitor recommended a work because he only had one work and didn't have much choice. The fairy tale was called Mine and Our Sacrificial Lamb. The reason for stopping the production was that after 188,000 years of creation in Utopia, all the innocent children had been exhausted, and Utopia had lost its energy. Maybe it's worth watching all the apocalypses at least once, thought the hero, considering the complexity and rewards. Holy Sword made a recommendation from the Marima team, presenting the book Chronicle of the Heavenly Demon. The reason for stopping the production was a disease of unknown origin that spread throughout the world. The celestial demon died, the faction was destroyed, and all other authorities and his wives were also killed. The recommendation is simple. There is a character in this world, the Heavenly Demon, a Muri man who has collected all the existing books on strong martial arts techniques. He created a martial art library, a specific skill that keeps secrets. If we save this world, we will get the library that holds the strongest skills. This is a chance for the hunters to significantly raise their level. The hunters raised their hands, dreaming of improving their skills. Kim thought about it again. We can still master the world of Marima. Masters, if we get at least one class. The rear spirit was already afraid that the guy was not a zombie, but his insatiability remained the same. All that was left for our hero was to choose the right world. But there was one world he wanted to wipe out, but with his current powers it was difficult. Soon, his sword shone, indicating the sensation of a trail. The boy looked at his sword and asked again what it meant. Sparkle replied that her sister was very close, and the boy remembered his sister's sword. If he looks at the book in the hands of the Holy Sword, he realizes that the Heavenly Demon Chronicle is the book in which the legendary sword that senses his sister is hidden. There was no need to think much about which world they would choose next, and before going to Murim, our hero decided to die one more time to start over. The rear spirit asks in which city, and his legendary sword named Sparkle does not understand his intentions. Kim says, Refamajim is the emperor, the founder, and the one who created the goddess. Protect him, Sparkle. Even without knowledge of who he was, it is clear that he traveled to different worlds. And Sparkle was originally in the world of the Anthem Empire, but the second sword is now in the Murim Empire. So he has the ability to move between worlds, and he is a kind of abuser. He is the kind of craftsman who can found an empire and even split constellations. He's not just a master, he's a madman who rushed into the Murim. But our hero was also invincible. To be honest, he admits that he was getting nervous. He thinks he needs to calm down for a while because his confidence can turn into recklessness. He became the top 3, almost single-handedly defeating the Demon King. The whole city is talking about him. Now he also gives orders to the hunters, who have earned nicknames. If he ever stumbles, he will become dangerous. Like a certain top 1 who lost his life as a result of such recklessness. They need to know what the Hagim are that they might encounter in the chronicles of the Celestial Demon. Right now, he has no information. In the spirit's opinion, this is a good idea. But what exactly is the hero going to do? Nothing is known about this emperor at all. Our hero raises his sword and says that the goddess of protection was crushed into 5 pieces, but she is part of a constellation. The question is, if he stabs himself with this sword, will it be suicide or murder? There is a 50-50 chance that it is, and that is an interesting reason to check it out. But the goddess asks him to think about it again. Soon after, the guy asks her why. The answer is this. Brilliant is shy about showing her past and is determined not to touch her personal history. The hero smiled, putting the sword to his neck. How can there be any privacy in their relationship if it's also broadcast live around the clock? It's all fair. Soon the guy does what he has in mind, despite any objections from Sparkle. The system informs him that the skill conditions have been met due to his death. Currently, the skills of the goddess of protection are sealed and cannot be learned. A penalty is assigned to him. The level of the penalty is medium. Soon after, the guy is shown a picture. The goddess is in some hall talking to someone sitting on a throne. This is the end of his long suffering. She believed that you would cope, dear warrior. This emperor sits on the side and says, yes, maybe, maybe. Kim and the rear spirit saw Rafant Agim and were amazed that it was him. The emperor said, it seems that yesterday he was delighted to suddenly be here, and now at some point he became the emperor of this continent. It was strange to watch my boyfriend, who is a deadly sky star. Kim asked the rear spirit if he was familiar with him. The spirit replies that he got his nickname because he only hunts constellations. He's a real sick bastard. Since the tower connects different worlds, from the 50th floor, rivalry with hunters from other worlds begins. Agam did not climb higher, although he could have. Instead, he would rush to torment a constellation if one was found. And the deadly celestial star is literally possessed by the 50th floor. Kim expresses his opinion that Agam is also a hunter. The spirit says that he wondered in what world a psychopath like him should be born. He did not expect to see his old friend in such a place. Kim asks what kind of relationship they had, and the spirit replies that he was too strong for him. The goddess told the emperor that she felt like she was at the beginning of a new stage again. He was also an ordinary man who knew nothing. Now he is stronger than the goddess. She asks him what he plans to do next, because there are no more divine or evil spirits to hinder him. His long wandering is finally over. After these words, Emperor Agam stood up from his throne. He was born with a constellation. It is not a divine or even an evil spirit. She is just a constellation, and the world does not belong to constellations, but to people. The goddess asked him why he decided to use his aura at that moment. Agam said that he would not kill her, because she had been helping him all this time. He has much better plans for her. He takes his magical energy and begins to surround the girl. He will divide her existence and seal it. Then she will not be able to regain her power. Soon he did. He apologized, but he thought it was the right thing to do. The system informed him that the display of the injury was ending. Soon, the guy found himself in the toilet in this world, not really understanding anything even after watching it. He asks Sparkle why her old master sealed her, but she doesn't know why herself. The Rafantajima she knew was a reserved but just warrior. She complains that she doesn't understand why he betrayed her, sealed her, and left his own empire. The rear spirit said, the higher the level of the hunters, the more they go crazy. You don't need to understand psychos. If you stare into the abyss for a long time, the abyss starts staring back at you. Just become stronger than you have to be. And it will only end when you defeat everyone, be it a deadly sky star or someone else. Our hero also believed that it was already an achievement that he had learned what it looked like, and the deadly sky star would definitely be hostile to him if he met her, because he was carrying the constellation that she had sealed. After returning to the 21st floor after reading the psycho-apocalypses, the hunters decided to choose the 22nd floor. Since the Heavenly Demon Chronicles were recommended by the Holy Sword himself, everyone easily settled on them, and they choose Murim as their first task. It wasn't a bad choice. It was completely different from the Murim they were familiar with, but at least they were connected by martial art and strength. They could face an ironic fate depending on how they behave. Martial arts are worth a lot of money. As you say, they can comprehend the skill. It is a law of the universe that a serious reward is obtained for a serious risk. In this case, how strong will the characters be that will enter as your opponents? And of course, if they die in the apocalypse, they will die in reality. And of course, it's impossible to escape the apocalypse until the ending is reached. The limit in the Heavenly Demon Chronicles is 2, 3, or 4 people. Who will go as a protagonist? Apocalypse asked all the hunters. Everyone looked at Kim first. Kim thoughtlessly decides that he will go. The Holy Sword will also participate, as the person who made the recommendation has no right to sit out. What a relief! The minimum number has been reached. 2 more people can participate. What do you think? Asks the manager. He also says that there's another reason why he recommended this apocalypse, and asks everyone to pay attention to the reason for the suspension. The reason for the halt is a disease of unknown origin that has been endlessly wandering around the world. The faction was destroyed. All other authorities were killed. From the last sentence, one can understand that a strange disease suddenly spread, and everyone died. The Holy Sword says, As you can see, this world has been destroyed by an infectious disease. That's why we need a hunter who is familiar with diseases. The Holy Sword realizes that there is a hunter who is stronger in this area than others. It was the King of Medicine, whom the Holy Sword invited to go with them. The rear spirit recalls that he is the owner of a pharmaceutical clinic, who always buys from the old man. They guarantee the old man that they will fight, and if the King of Medicine deals with this disease, it will be the apocalypse. The three of them will be able to cleanse the world. The Holy Sword gives his word to the King of Death, and he says that he wants to take someone else with him. The guy calls an alchemist he has known for a long time. Everyone thinks it's the right thing to do. But our hero is rebuked because it's only been a few weeks since she got her nickname, and she's incredibly weak, so there's no point in taking her along. To this, our hero, looking her in the eye, replied that among her acquaintances, she is a person capable of alchemy and a doctor. She had recently told him that if he needed anything, she would help him in any way she could. He kissed her hand and looked her in the eye and decided to convince her. He said, "If those were not empty words, then I ask you to help me." The alchemist agreed, but noted that there was a price to pay. Ms. Alchemist, the girl was seriously ashamed because she was shocked by this turn of events. None of the people around her knew this girl, but Kim was confident in her, and without hesitation took her in. The Holy Sword recalled that he had also met this person and knew her capabilities very well. The girl was afraid to go on the mission, but Kim emphasized that she should not be afraid, because he and the Holy Sword could solve any problems. The Sword had his doubts about her, because they were going to an incredibly dangerous place, and the constellation was quite dangerous. If they die in the apocalypse, they will die in reality. But Kim understood this perfectly well, and he had no doubts about the girl because she was a wonderful pharmacist. The rear spirit realized that the man the Sword had taken on the assignment was good at preparing mixtures, but he was no better than her, and this lady was skilled enough. Saint Sword thought about how the guy had expressed himself about this girl and went into his thoughts, but Kim could read those thoughts. He thought that she must be extraordinary herself, since she was recommended by the King of Death. The Lord of the Sword was making sense. Even the biggest crucian carp in the river is no match for the smallest carp. The Holy Sword gives the two young men the opportunity to make connections with the King of Medicine. Kim, after reading this nonsense, realized that the Holy Sword simply gives them the opportunity to meet the Medicine King. Like, yeah, I'm making connections. His temperament as an old man with a grudge remains the same. And realizing that the Holy Sword also has a rear spirit that judges the pharmacist only by appearance, Kim realized that they both acted on stereotypes. This man, upon seeing the alchemist chief, said that there were no better pharmacists than him, calling all the others dumb children. In his opinion, it is ridiculous when one boasts of an achievement, because he thinks that a commoner climbs a mountain. This man looks at these young people as if he were himself when he was young, and he likes it, even if it annoys him a little. The Holy Sword reassures his friend, the King of Medicine, explaining that the King of Death is an outstanding personality, and that he is taking the alchemist with him simply because of his lack of life experience. But the old man shouts that experience is the most important thing and pretends to know everything. This infuriates the old man, because when he was young, he made about $1 million in Silicon Valley in his 20s, which seemed to him to be as devious a plan as it is now. Kim, listening to this, was amazed at the old man's reaction. It was simply incredible. The old man's strength made the invincible sword saint follow him around. He was constantly protecting everyone and enduring the effects of this shield, constantly looking at Marcus, and following him was an annoying girl who had appeared out of nowhere. The boy noticed that the old man was absorbing most of the old people. This is the ecosystem of the old people's world. The girl came out to express her opinion on this. She said that they can call her as many names as they want with ketone, but she is the King of Death, and she will never be a shield. And she also said something about insidious plans. But the old people got even angrier. The King of Medicine emphasized that the girl was covering for the young man. Of course, the alchemist did not like this. The knight came out to settle the dispute, confirming that she was indeed an outstanding pharmacist, and she had met her through the King of Death. The vigilantes received many wonderful medicines from her. However, the old man continued to insist on his point, explaining that the level of the vigilante squad could be lower. These words irritated the Holy Knight. The old pharmacist continued to humiliate her, emphasizing that her guild was a bunch of losers and had no business getting into big pharma. Soon after, the rear spirit asks Kim why he just listens to these insults, or if he just likes being a target for blows. Kim replies that this is not the case. The thing is, everything is being shown live now, and it's just the best time. Now people are going to see who is the real face of their heroes. And it's a great time to debut and to retire. The alchemist can outshine this king of medicine forever. Our hero offers to make a bet. More precisely, to exchange medicines. The guy takes a bottle of potion out of his pocket. He offers to provide the ingredients, and they will brew a potion from them to find out and compare the effectiveness of the medicine very easily. The Death King turns to the girl, who is angry with the old man because he insults her. She is still called the Doctor King, while she considers the boy a hero. Kim takes her by the shoulders and tells her to calm down. He believes in her with all his heart, and that's why he's asking her to believe in herself. Hearing this, the girl smiled and made a promise that she would try and even win against this rascal. Soon, the two talented alchemists took up their instruments, and everyone watched them closely. As the girl was brewing the potion, she realized that the Death King had exaggerated, because the old man's pharmacy was so elite that he had a month's appointment. Although the King of Death and the King of Medicine are in different roles, the age difference is noticeable. The alchemists quickly finished with their potion, and the Countess offered to place money bets on the winner. The bets were on the King of Medicine and his alchemist. The witch was worried that the odds were unfavorable, and that the alchemist had odds of 47. Kim replied, "That's just fine," and suggested that she earn some extra money for pocket money by betting on the alchemist so that the odds don't drop too much. The witch looked at him a little skeptically, but did as he said, remembering that they were now live. She reminded him that if his pharmacist failed now, his reputation would suffer. The guy took himself by the chin and said that this broadcast was not only in Babylon, but all over the world, and he felt very sorry for the old man, whom everyone called the King of Medicine. The old man knew he would win, and his confidence was off the charts. He takes out a bottle of his medicine and tells everyone to bow their heads before his great creation. The level of rarity of his drink was impressive. This potion being reconstituted is a true level of craftsmanship. People were amazed, but they expected it from an old man who had been through a lot. Hunters even offered to buy it from him, but the old man, as always, was in the order of armor, and it was impossible to get to him without a line, so he apologized. The alchemist also said that she had finished, and in her hands she was holding a miraculous potion that amazed everyone with its rarity. People could not believe that an unknown alchemist could create such a miracle. It was a medicine that blinded everyone around and even hurt their eyes, so they had to wear glasses. After the alchemist demonstrated her potion, everyone around her was amazed. The rarity level and effect of the potion was divine, like the taste of strawberries. The purified flavor of divine strawberries, which was not even in the ingredients. Where did she get this flavor from? The effect was simply incredible. There were no words to describe it. One could be blinded by the radiance that seemed to emanate from the flask. If stored properly, the potion could even restore severed body parts without complications. The difference between the two alchemists was simply incredible. At this moment, the alchemist outshone the old generation and showed who was who. Taking her potion and adjusting her glasses, she could only try it. The old man was shocked by what he saw. The potion created by the old man, although valuable, was not so rare. The girl evaluated the quality and appearance of the old man's potion, but did not see anything special. She was already feeling more confident, even giving it to the old man, saying that it was not her level. She confidently stated, "Is that all he can do? Is she really one of those people who are filled with great power when they think they are useful?" She folded her arms and asked him again if that was all he could do. The old man looked at her. Could this loser really do that? She asked the old man if he had bad skills, and he replied that she was just lucky. He reiterated that she was just lucky because he believed that such things happen. When I earned 1 billion in 10 minutes on the stock exchange, I also thought it was because of my skills. The girl disagreed and suggested a second round, as she was sure that the goddess of luck does not smile twice. Nothing changed in the second round, because the girl made an even better potion than he did. Although he said that luck does not smile twice, it does not smile 3 times, and he suggested another round. In the third round, the old man also lost, and was sure that she was just lucky. But he did not recognize her skills. He repeated that the goddess of luck does not smile 4 times. It was clear that he had lost, and the holy sword even began to cover his face in shame. By the 5th time, the old man was almost in tears at what had happened, saying that she was not behaving with dignity, and this time he knew that his experience would beat her luck. All this time, he had not recognized the girl's skills and mastery, even though he looked pitiful, but no one was paying attention to him anymore. The Holy Sword decided to apologize and admit that she was indeed the best pharmacist. He believed the guarantor of the King of Death. The alchemist asked the Holy Spirit how hard it was for him to have such a friend, because his friend had no good qualities, and even his potions were not so good, even though he knew how to make them. At this point, the old man bursts into tears, realizing that he has lost his reputation, and the girl takes him as her assistant. The Countess quickly waved her hand to get to the girl. She took her hands and said, "A contract, an immediate exclusive contract just for you." The Countess wanted to make a deal with her. The Countess saw her as a prospect and offered the most favorable terms of partnership, even allowing her to pet the cat that was lying at her feet. What kind of offer is that? Soon, everyone was pouncing on her with their own proposals. She was nicknamed the Queen of Alchemy. She did not know how to refuse their requests, because everyone wanted her potion. The girl shouted, "Enough! All these offers are good, of course, but all transactions will go through the King of Death. First, go to him, and then to the Lady Holy Knight, with whom she has already made a deal. As for other people, I will only sell potions to those who the Death King allows, and only when possible." But Kim said that he would decide all this later, because the chronicles of the Heavenly Demon cannot wait. "And the campaign, the choice of the current league is complete," the deputy said. The boy repeats, "If they die in the apocalypse, they will die in real life. And there is only one way to choose, so avoid the risk of stopping at all costs." Their goal is to bring everything to a proper ending. But what does the right ending entail? It depends on their decisions and the possibilities, which are almost unlimited. You can eliminate the disease and save the Murim, or you can take over the Murim using the disease. Everything is in their hands, and Kim asks them to send them straight to the Chronicles of the Sky Demon. "Wait a second!" someone shouted. "Why isn't the head of the 1,000 brothers coming? According to his warriors, this world was created for him." Kim looked directly into the eyes of the poisonous serpent. He didn't want to take him at all, but the warriors insisted. The poisonous serpent didn't want to go either, but he couldn't miss this opportunity. He was about to be called up, because he did not want to be forgotten. He positioned himself in this way, although in reality his disciples had sent him into this hole. He shouted to his soldiers, "The peace of people who honor martial arts is unity. This is who we are, the Murim. Although my homeland is different, I have long made my soul my homeland. Murim is my native land." But in reality, he was thinking, "There is not even a flush toilet there. I suffered hell for that in the Empire." All his words did not correspond to his thoughts at all. He would say one thing and think something else. He was telling everyone what a great warrior he was and how he would defeat everyone. But in reality, he really did not want to go there. The Holy Sword spoke to him. "It seems as if he is the only one who wants to go there. But I don't see any point in repeating myself because it seems like he is grumbling." This gave no one a reason to give in to him, but he knew what he was doing. But in order to test his strength, the Holy Sword proposed a duel. It was a battle of honor for the poisonous serpent. The Holy Knight, seeing this mess, told the old man to stop, asking if he was going to have a sword fight here. She was holding a bag of gold and looked quite curious. The poisonous serpent emphasized that he and the Holy Sword were real warriors, and could decide who would go with them in battle. At this point, he thought it was better to lose, because it was embarrassing to lose openly, so he came closer to the Holy Sword to lose to him, and everyone would understand. He thought that the Holy Knight would stop it, but the knight laughed at him, emphasizing that he was a stupid man. The poisonous serpent is not in time. He says one thing and thinks another. He asks for one thing and thinks another. He wants it to stop, but he can't admit it. The knight addresses them, knowing that they are drawn to the front line. But he has already participated with the Death King and the Dragon Head. If he joins in to clean up the 22nd floor, it will be completely unfair. The head of the gate is the head of the guild, and the knight asks that you show him respect. He alone doesn't have to worry about his reputation, but the situation is completely different for the poisonous snake, and she asks the Holy Sword to give way to him. But when it's a holiday, he doesn't care about the reputation of the 5 guilds. Lately, he has been thinking that he should take care of his conscience. And this time he is going to give way to the poisonous serpent. The poisonous serpent said, "You should have done it right away, man. He bet his life on it." But he thinks to himself, "No, Marcus, you weren't like that. What would you do?" No. It was an incredible situation. The knight persuaded the Holy Sword, but in reality it was different. The Holy Sword accepted her point of view. The witch, watching everything, was offended that everyone was slowly growing, and the old alchemist kept repeating that we had to go faster, because the day had already passed. He was always talking about his younger years, how cool he was. The alchemist, of course, was glad to see him. But she was afraid that she would be under his control, and this was not her favorite fact. But the poisonous serpent decided to show off, saying that he will handle everyone in all battles and can leave a person beheaded in an instant. Soon, the deputy opens the book of the apocalypse and calls on everyone who volunteers to conquer the new world, giving them a new meaning. All of these brave heroes are the 4 people who have been identified as the new protagonists of the Heavenly Demon Chronicles. As soon as they open their eyes, they find themselves in a world 10 days before the Heavenly Demon Chronicles faces a production cut. The deputy expects them to have a great ending. Soon, a dark night and snowy weather transport them to a symbol of the world they will soon enter. For a long time, the martial arts genre has lost its popularity. Computer games and graphics have become very outdated, although they looked cool at the time. When everything is seriously ridiculed, there was no place for martial arts. The breathing and cultivation technique is insufficient. The dinner technique and cultivation, the quarrel technique and cultivation. The genre was lost, the world was lost, and the show was lost. Our heroes found themselves in a snowy place where they couldn't even see the way forward. Kim recommends that her colleagues use their aura to protect themselves. The alchemist, for example, had never learned how to do this, and the old man was almost dying of cold. Our hero turned to the head of the 1,000 gates to look after the king of medicine, and he selflessly fulfilled his task, carrying the old man on his shoulders. He took the alchemist with him, holding out his hand to her. When she took his hand, an aura filled the space and began to protect her as well. She was partly embarrassed by this, but there was no time to dwell on it. The creation of the library manager used the words work and issue. They are not just in a book, but in their own world, which they came to save. The first thing to do is to find out to prevent a bad ending. The girl admitted that she had taken everything too lightly and promised not to do that again and to do her best. Everyone should focus on their role. Now Kim is protecting everyone with her aura. But during the fight against the disease, the alchemist and the king of medicine will have to go to the front lines. The Chronicles of the Heavenly Demon describes how a strange disease spread across the world, killing a heavenly demon, and soon everyone died. This description does not even mention the deadly cold and incredible knee-deep snow. Now our brave hunters have to find out how and why the sky demon died. Soon, walking along an unknown road, the girl noticed something strange. She pointed her finger and told everyone to take a look. In the snowy silhouettes, they could see that some people were standing, and only shadows were visible in the blizzard. They decided to move in that direction. The rear spirit was disturbed by this picture, and something, in his opinion, was wrong. The silence in that direction was complete, and Kim thought it was a blizzard. Of course, it was possible. But it was not just the sounds. There was not even movement. Complete silence. And in a second, the blizzard was gone. The poisonous snake and the king of medicine looked forward and asked each other, "What the hell?" There were silhouettes of warriors' bodies in the snow, but they were all frozen. But why did this happen? The frostbitten bodies of the soldiers were frozen forever, and they would remain in the icy nothingness forever. Putting on a mitten, the girl decided to check their bodies. Taking a single skin sample from a statue of a warrior's foot and analyzing this tissue, she was incredibly surprised. They were real people, and according to her calculations, they had died 2 years and 3 months ago. According to the diagnostic skill, the cause of death was an infection, and the analysis showed that it was an unreported disease. The Medicine King, using his skill, was also amazed by this. None of them froze to death. All of them had the same cause: disease. But if they had gotten sick and died, they would have been lying on the ground, but they are all standing. Nobody knows what happened and when it happened. There is a good chance that someone deliberately brought this disease here. The cause of death is the same, but the time is different for everyone. Someone died 2 years ago, and someone died 3 years ago. We can assume that someone deliberately moved them here. Kim asked the girl, "Is this a cemetery?" The poisonous snake commented that they looked like terracotta soldiers and didn't look like a cemetery at all. Using his opportunity, the guy decided to check the character's window. Having opened his skill on one of the frozen bodies, he sees only the title, the character's name, and the last thought he had before he died. Light. Kim opened the window of a dead person for the first time, and that was enough to understand. But what does light mean? Perhaps it is the last thought of a person. And if this is a cemetery, why is it like this? They are warm here because of the aura, but these people have weapons on their belts. Soon Kim looks to the side and hears some strange sounds, like a fight. A man shouts, "Let's stop the heavenly directions of the demonic path." And his opponent laughed at the old man, saying, "Even a dog passing by would fall over laughing." "The demonic path will continue to rule over all such worlds," said the dark girl, holding her weapon. "Say goodbye to your faction. We are the Murim." Buvelson did not agree with her. To him, this girl was the bloody ghost of the demonic cult she was so proud of. "And you and your axe were beheaded long ago, and I sent your elders to the other side with my own hands. I have 500 Murima masters with me, and how are you going to stop us?" She replied, "Old man, stop lying. There are no more bloody ghosts. They were sent on a secret mission." Seeing this picture, Kim offers to quietly move in with them, as they are very interested in the tense situation. The girl ignores Walson's words, but says that he should be watching his shoemakers, not her subordinates. Where are the pillars of the great clans? When did the proud head of the Murim become such a laughingstock? The old man shouted that it was none of her business, because he had assigned his warriors to go on a secret mission throughout the Murim. The girl dodges, laughing that the old man has so many secret missions. But it's all because she has done so much wrong. If it weren't for your disgusting celestial demon cult, there wouldn't be such a mess. You've made it worse by giving him such a crazy Murim once, but how dare you say such things to me? Our heroes are simply shocked by these dialogues, sitting in the bushes and watching it all. They do not understand what is happening. The girl says to the old man, "If you don't like it, then fight at last. I will cut off the roots of the last faction and show the persistence of the demonic cult over the entire Murimu celestial world." The old man can't stand devils like her trying to assert themselves. He will cut her in half and give one half as a gift to the supreme ruler, and the other half to the ruler of the underworld. But what is that strange weapon in their hands? All they are holding is a branch from a tree. The girl asks Walson, "What is that stick in your hands? Where is your jade axe?" She declares that the old man is a nobody who only knows how to swing his axe. The old man cannot stand this impudent girl and shouts at her to shut up. "You yourself have already lost your blood demon sword, which you called your daughter." The girl, holding a stick in her hands, replies, "Your words are harsh, because this is a wooden sword created by me personally, and the whole essence of the millennial demonic cult is in this stick." She called it the demonic heavenly blade. But is it true that she gave such a name to a simple stick? It was just ridiculous. Two great warriors standing with wooden sticks pointed at each other. The old man thought the name was too pretentious. Why not call a wooden stick a wooden whip? But the girl told the old man, "You don't call a wooden stick, you fool." In this case, she would call the stick a demon wooden whip. But the word demon drives the old man absolutely crazy. He wonders why the clowns of the demon clan call everything demonic. He has the blood demon, the demon sword, the hell demon summoning ghost under his command. Put them all together, and you've got the demonic four. It just sounds strange. How could you even entrust the Murim to such idiots? Soon, the old man and the girl looked up at the sky, which shone with its own light. The old man reproached the girl because she had said that the weather would be beautiful today. But predictions are not always true. How can anyone be sure of the future? In the old man's opinion, she was a stupid fortune teller, and her words could not be trusted. The girl responds by telling him to shut up and get ready for battle, because he has to say goodbye to his already lacking energy. Our heroes watch these clowns and do not understand why they behave this way, but soon they felt that someone was watching them. And this someone covered them with his shadow. The alchemist girl realized that things were not going well, and that she had to react to her senses. When they turned back and looked with one eye, they saw something standing behind them. They began to run away as if the devil was behind them. The world of Murima is the world of people who live only in martial arts. The heavenly demon appeared in this place to unite the Murim. The demonic faction of the heavenly demon had forces opposing the celestial faction. They were about to clash, but suddenly a super strange epidemic spread, and our heroes were running away from the frozen zombies who were standing frozen in the ice. When the air temperature got warmer, they thawed out and started attacking them. It was a zombie virus. The alchemist and the king of medicine ran as fast as they could. The old man was just screaming, "Run! Run!" He had never seen anything like this even in his youth in Silicon Valley. This is the real apocalypse. But Kim reminds the old man that this place is the apocalypse, and with his blade, he cuts off one zombie's head. Despite the fact that he cut off its head, the zombies keep moving. If you unfreeze them, they attack again. The old man and the girl look at the hunters and do not understand where they came from. Who are they and why did they come? The girl can't believe her eyes. She sees 4 living people here, and perhaps these people are the lords of the underworld. The old man also sees and feels them, but feels mentally retarded because of her ridicule. Kim, meanwhile, holds the girl on his shoulders and asks where they should run away from these zombies. The heroes of Marima's world were amazed that there were people in their mother's house. Did they really die and go to hell? But the old man begins to doubt. No, they couldn't have gone to hell because he thought he was righteous as the head of the military union. He thinks that this is the land of blooming peaches. But why are there zombies instead of peach trees? The poisonous snake and our hero Kim carry not only doctors on their shoulders, but also representatives of the Marima world. The girl who is holding the guy in her arms asks where they came from, because they use an unusual technique. She asks if they are children from their towns. Kim replies that they are not from their towns, and realizes that she is not asking from the reality of the Murim, but from somewhere else. But the zombies behind them start jumping, running, attacking faster and faster. They run like devils. Poisonous Snake asks, "Since when did zombies learn to fly?" The girl answers that it is her personal movement technique. She showed them her skunk and surrounded them. Just look. They don't just stop in a trail of snow. They just fly. These are my personal elite demon sect warriors, true demon sectarians who have not forgotten the martial art even after death, she said. But these words worried our heroes. What do you mean they didn't forget martial arts even after death? But these children don't know anything at all, because they are not from here. The girl reminds them that martial artists, even after becoming gangsters, always remember the basics. The character from Marima emphasizes that these guys are the best warriors of the demon sect. They have learned to recognize the smell of blood even in their sleep, and she is overwhelmed with pride that their movements are surrounded by skill, even if they are corpses. It was all very well, but these zombies were catching up with them at such a pace that they could catch them. The old man on the snake's shoulders was yelling at him to run as fast as he could, because he would be the first one the old man would bite if he became a zombie. The poisonous serpent thought, "Who suggested I take this fucking old man in the first place? And why did I even get involved with this old man while the Death King is with the girls?" Kim hears this and asks, "We can't die because of these zombie martial artists." And the poisonous snake only cares about what could be more important than what's going on behind them. Zombies were everywhere, but also martial arts zombies. The girl called these zombies gaunts, and Kim asked, "What are the weaknesses of these morons?" She answered that if you smash their heads, they will stop moving. According to the guy, it was very simple. But there was one more nuance that the girl pointed out. It was that they freeze when the sun comes out, and she pointed to the sky. Kim turns to the alchemist and the strange girl, saying that they will have to try themselves now. They don't fully understand what he means, but using their aura, the guy just throws them up and scatters them in different places. Our ladies fly right into the snow with only their feet sticking out of it. Kim apologizes, of course, but it was a necessity. Behind him, there are a bunch of zombies to deal with. The rear spirit encourages the guy, saying that it's time to die. We'll see how his zombies will be killed by his own comrades, and that will be -1 item from the bucket list. Kim perfectly understands the rear spirit's jokes, but where does he get his bucket list from? Since he's not going to die, he pulls out his sword and lights up all the zombies attacking him from above. He tells his sword, Sparkle, that she has answered his call and started doing what she does best. It's to shine and mess with everyone's head with her brilliance so that everyone gets hit. Her superpower was just amazing. The zombies lifted their legs, captivated by Sparkle's brilliance, and they all went into snow piles, and the guys didn't even have to fight them. At this point, they could keep running. The old man was glad that he had survived. God damn it, I would never have gone up that tower if it wasn't for Marcus's request. Kim asks if everyone survived, and it looks like they did. The girls who landed in the snow were sneezing because of hypothermia. The Magus even had beer on her face, and she thanked the King of Death. The poisonous serpent asks what kind of day it is today. Either a holy sword or his old friend. He doesn't want to mess with old people anymore, but Kim turns to him saying, "Please keep an eye on everyone while I deal with these zombies. There's something else I'm going to do." The guy points his sword in the direction of the zombies and says he'll get rid of them while they're still. It will take a little time to smash all of their heads. He is about to leave when an unknown girl stops him, calling him a child from out of place. She first thanks him for saving her, a complete stranger, but he has to stop. If he intends to harm Ghanaians, she will stop him. But why? Perhaps the zombies are persons of a curse, and this curse will be passed on to whoever kills them. They are all members of a demonic sect, she says. The guy looks at her shocked and does not understand her words. But the girl emphasizes that they are all her students and subordinates. Of course, the Great War to eradicate the Murim faction is almost over, and she needs every martial artist. And with such losses, she can't afford to lose any more warriors. But what is this Great War? The world of the Heavenly Demon Chronicles was already on the verge of extinction. How else would they have the strength to wage war? Kim recalls the words of a deputy who said that they would be 10 days before the fall of this universe. And the deputy was hoping for a stunning ending, with only 10 days left before the Chronicles' fall. The old man they saved called himself Buvals, the head of the military union. He and his faction swore on their honor. Today is the 989th day since the war between the demon sect and the Marima faction began, the old man said. He and the girl swore on their honor that none of them would leave this place until one of them conceded defeat. Their warriors may have become Ghanaians, but they can use the martial arts of the demon sect as members. They are subordinates that the girl has to supervise, so she asks them not to kill them at will. If you are going to kill someone, let it be those who betray the monastic vow, the girl continued. The old man simply exploded at these words. It was unheard of for him. Does she have any idea how difficult it was to gather the chosen warriors of the famous Marima clan? They had made a promise to each other, and according to the promise, the two of them should decide the outcome of the war without the help of the Ghanaians. But promises are made to be broken. Our hero looks at these two and doesn't understand why they are so tough. The old man, hearing the girl's words, calls her a fucking bitch and promises to rip the heads off all the demonic sectarians. The Murim faction is going to break the agreement, so he showed his true colors, the girl says. Kim looks at them and sees that they continue to fight, even if the world is ending, but the demoness says he is wrong. This world decided to come to an end while they were fighting. So it doesn't bloom is no excuse to interrupt the battle that has begun. I will not stop until the old man is defeated, she said. I have 500 Ganzi warriors left. I will lead them and level the Murim to the ground, the demoness continues. The old man asks her not to steal his words and calls her an evil bitch because his soldiers will be with him until death. The guy looks at these two idiots, who are controlling the corpses of zombies, and realizes that it's time to put an end to the war that lasted 989 days. After several fights with the old man, the demoness promises him that she will send him straight to the grave. The old man, in turn, is not afraid of her, saying, "Fine, let's fight and find out who will win the martial arts competition." They strike each other, shouting their ninja phrases. But from the outside it looks completely absurd. Because they are holding small wooden sticks. Fighting with these sticks, it's as if energy is released. The girl shouts, "The kingdom of heaven!" And the old man, "Destruction of heaven golden axe," and uses his technique. They cut and break their wands into two parts, each of them disintegrating. And all they think of doing is taking the girl by the hair and the old man by the beard. From the outside, it looks as absurd as possible. What's going on here? Their reception is just terrible. The old man takes the girl and hits her in the eyes with 2 fingers, which looks ridiculous. "I'm going to blow you out." Their breathing techniques are perfect. Even in their world they would be considered masters. The rear spirit notices that they are skilled. The punch to the eyes comes from a divine dragon catching a dragon sphere with its claw. So the fight is called the dragon fight for the sphere. Covering the face is like the descended Buddha covering the face of every monk. In other words, the Buddha covers thousands of faces. But the question is why they are fighting so stupidly, and it is seriously embarrassing. Judging by their level of skill, they are full of energy. And the reason their movements are sloppy is because they are devoid of energy and aura, which is impossible. Even if their dantian was blocked, it looked like a joke. The old man and girl were actually not that bad, and the audience thought they might be pretending. But a martial arts master is always a master. The fight between the Lord of the Earth and the Silent Dragon could not be so absurd. The guy did not react to the remarks of the rear spirit, who tells him, "Look, zombies are smarter than you," and he opens the window of the poisonous serpent character. He had just analyzed the battle with his unsurpassed warrior skill, and everything turned out exactly as he thought. The movements were deciphered, and they nicely transformed into the Jade Dog, protecting the gates of the Demon King's palace. Protecting both sides does not allow the king to rest in between. It is not easy to be between them. And with my childhood friend and strange manga, I am a character from a game, I decided to become a real dragon warrior, no doubt about it. After reading this nonsense, Kim thought about it. Their actions look like a war game. If they could see the difference, how different would the beginner's skills be? It was just amazing to see Poison Snake's thoughts, how he sees martial arts. The rear spirit's skull almost fell off. Everything became clear. Suddenly, the old man couldn't take it anymore. He started screaming that he was freezing to death. And they, idiots, are going to fight here, and don't notice other people at all. Ah, that's a narrow view of the world, the old man says. Just like me when I was young. It's definitely not considerate of guests who have come from far away, says one of the warriors. First, let's show them hospitality, lead them to our cave. And they set off to a sunny place in an unknown direction. Kim noticed that the old man and the girl were having a hard time walking on the snowy roads because they were tired. Kim offered his help, saying that he could carry the girl. This was most appropriate, because she had used all her strength for breathing techniques, but the venomous snake said that would not do. He would rather carry a girl than a boring old man. Walking along this path and carrying the old man, Kim thought nothing else, but the old man took him by the shoulder. He said that the warmth of a person warms you on a cold day. It was quite strange. The rear spirit reacted to this as a rather strange phrase. Soon they came to the old man's shelter, where they could see a group of stones. As they approached the entrance, they saw that the cave was quite spacious, and sunlight was coming through the stones. It was quite a beautiful place, and the cave looked very cozy. The best thing about the old man's cave was that there were hot springs. The girl had found this place a long time ago, but she could not even think that guests from other lands would come here. At first, she suggested that they wash themselves, and she and the old man would go look for some food. But what could they offer them but fruits and roots, so they had to look for food. Taking hold of each other, they went to look for food, continuing their eternal arguments. The king of medicines, standing by the springs, said that how could they fight for 3 years? The alchemist remarked that this was quite strange. They had recently tried to kill each other, but apparently they had just gotten used to it. It was warm and cozy near the springs, but the poisonous serpent said that now the head of the 1,000 faceless could leave. The serpent could not stand it and said, "Lord, what an idiot the holy sword holds as a friend." The old man exploded with words, forcing him to watch his words, because the old man was his friend. Soon the locals returned with food, bringing only grain balls. Usually they hunt in their world, but now there are not even animals in their neighborhood. Our heroes accepted this food without much enthusiasm. As soon as they took a piece of grain ball into their mouths, they felt nauseous. The girl asked if they always eat only this. The demoness replied that it was mostly their main food. It turned out that they had been eating only grain balls for about 2 years, and the stone wall had markings on it from the days when it started. The alchemist realized that if they were eating this, they were most likely not getting enough nutrients. The girl replied that she didn't know what nutrients they were talking about, but it was mostly tolerable. The old man cannot tolerate extremes. Since they ate only this, it is not surprising that they did not even have the strength to walk, forgetting about their health like he did in his youth. He pulls the tools out of his pocket and begins to alchemize food in a frying pan. It wasn't much, but they must eat well while they are young. He puts a variety of delicacies on the table that these people have never seen before, to which Muram's representative says that they are old enough with the demon bitch. To which the old man replies that they are taking an elixir. It doesn't matter, their bodies won't last. And after everyone started trying the old man's dishes, it was just incredible. Kim, having tasted his soup, realized that it was better than all the luxuries. He pampered himself after winning the lottery. No drinks or delicacies can compare to this, and it's worth living to try such food. Even the alchemist said that it was delicious, and she couldn't do it. A resident of Murim, a demoness bitch, was amazed that this was just a divine course. Could this be the emperor's own cook? Another old man, being the head of a military alliance, had tasted many things in his life, but he had never tasted such a good meal. The old man was a master of his craft. No wonder he received 3 Michelin stars as a chef, and he was proud of himself. The poisonous serpent asks him why such an amazing chef was in Babylon with an old alchemist. The old man replies, "Why not? Even the damned Marcus came here." It turns out that they know each other from the outside world, and the old man knows that Marcus was just the owner of a dirty conglomerate. For him, the one who got to Silicon Valley with his own hands is just a lucky asshole. The old man came here of his own free will, having faced failures in recent years. After all the plates were empty, unusual dishes from the outside world became rare. Demoness was curious about where they came from in this world and what their mission was. She asked if maybe they had found a way to cure Gangshi's disease. Kim looked at the alchemist, and they realized that they didn't have a cure yet. They needed to decide how to do it. The demoness said that the doctors and monks of the idolatrous temples had spent a lot of effort on treatment, but it was all in vain. Even the followers of the Moshan, who had knowledge of this virus, gave up. They do not think that the outer lands will be able to overcome it, and they realize with difficulty that there is no way to cure this curse. But they have seen with their own eyes that the dishes prepared by the people who came to their lands contained completely different knowledge, especially this pharmacist who is the best at treating diseases and making medicines. The demoness pointed to the king of medicine, saying that this man could at least be an assistant. If they tell him about the disease, they might be able to develop a cure. It's hardly a cure, but it's better than nothing. After these words, the demoness and the old man went into the cave, which was completely dark. It was quiet for 10 minutes. They did not return empty-handed. They were holding a strange thing in their hands. The alchemist was amazed to see that they were carrying a wooden box. This wooden box looked like a coffin, and they were going to open it. After they opened the coffin box, what was inside alerted everyone. It was one of the Gansi, who had been nailed to boards and chained so that he could not escape. But what it was, Kim asks, is beyond him. This zombie was in a terrible condition, but he was chained and tied up, to which the girl replied that it was one of the heads of the Udal movement. He believed them, and entrusted his body after being bitten by a Ganzi so they could study it. However, the only thing they came up with was to pinch the anchor points of the chi energy. If one is pulled out, then each point is responsible for the immobility of that zombie. As soon as the girl pulled out one nail, this miserable dead zombie started to come to life and scream. His head started to explode and he started screaming in his own zombie words. After the demonstration, the girl put the anchor point back on, and the rascal zombie calmed down. Compressed chi points between the brain and spinal cord help to pacify the Ganzi. But it is not a cure, only a temporary solution. A bitten Ganzi is charged with corrupted energy through blood vessels and chi points. No matter how much a person meditates, they will not be able to cope with this energy. Whether it is a cultist of demonic chi energy or a monk with righteous energy, nothing helps after a zombie bite. The body is seized by heat, and it is as if it is in the grip of flames, and soon the person turns into a Ganzi. The monk from Shaolin lasted the longest. He died an hour after he was bitten on the hand, a 1 in a million chance. Even selected martial artists cannot last more than 2 weeks. The demoness asks if the people from foreign lands are sure they can find a cure, and the doctors look at her with a rather dubious look. Looking them in the eye, the demoness was still glad to have met them, as she and the old man were the only two left on Earth. And the old man will prepare a place for them where they can go to sleep and rest. And they will discuss the rest tomorrow. Our heroes all lay down together in the cave. Only the old man muttered that he could not accept the fact that he would be the second alchemist in life, even though everyone was asleep. Kim could not sleep and thought about it for a long time. The rear spirit asks him why he is awake, and at that moment he realizes that he needs to check something. He suddenly covers himself with a blanket. He sees 2 silhouettes approaching him to check if he is asleep. After they are sure that everyone is asleep, they start talking to each other. The boy opens his eyes and sees them diving into the water. The old man and the girl were immersed in the hot pool when they saw Kim come up. They are amazed because they thought he was sleeping, but in fact he was awake and the girl realized it long ago. Kim found the two strange from the moment he first saw them. They were lightly dressed and standing in the cold, but in fact it was so cold that they couldn't have survived without being wrapped in aura or chi energy. So they were using their inner strength to protect themselves from the cold. Kim had only one conclusion. They were controlling their chi energy for something else. Poking them both, he said, "You two have been bitten. Like the other faction leaders, you are able to suppress corrupted energy with the power of your energy." "That is correct." The girl looked at the beautiful moonlight. When the old man came out of the water, he even screamed like a demon. She put on her robe, buttoning it up, and told the old man to calm down, because they had been discovered. And the child was right. The demoness opened her dress and showed the bite she had received 3 years ago, and the old man also showed his bite. Everything was quite serious, but the boy made one mistake. They do not suppress spoiled energy. It is suppressed by clamping the cervical vertebrae through the use of our techniques. The rear spirit was amazed that they were using telekinesis. He reminded Kim that he had once heard of flying sword techniques, where you can make a sword fly with chi. They have a paralyzed body because they clamp down on their neck vertebrae with chi energy. As with the flying sword, they move their body with chi energy. They make their heart beat and their body function. The lungs breathe and the organs work through this technique. All this is based on the fact that they make their muscles and joints move, which is necessary to stay alive, and they control all this with the help of chi energy. They use the flying sword technique around the clock. No wonder they get tired after a few steps. And how could they continue to wage war, says the old man. Going back to the story, the warriors came to them, saying that they could not go on like this. Half of the blood demons were destroyed. The elders ran away, saying that they would enter the world of Murim, but we have already lost them. It's not the best time for a battle between factions, and perhaps their sect has faced a turning point. On the orders of their boss, they opened an independent pharmacy, and the heads are there. They will catch Ganzi for testing and try to prepare the results as soon as possible. The demon lord Volyan and the blood demon have been attacked, and tomorrow a new 1,000 Ganzi will appear. Even if we destroy 100 today, they won't be able to cope soon. Their advisors only reported as they died. Sky demon, please run to the island. If you hide there, it doesn't matter how many Ganzi there are, they won't be able to cross the sea. If our schools are always here, the world will have at least some memories. The soldiers asked. Forget the promise you made, lords of Murim. Please retreat to return. The law of heaven has changed, as have human duties. A heavenly demon. Why is he keeping a meaningless promise that was made before the world was shaken? And all this led to the deaths of soldiers. A cure for this disease was never invented, and soon all the soldiers died. Kim wondered how they managed to hold on and endure it all the time. The old man looked at the demoness and said, "Follow us, Kim." They walked to the illuminated place and headed for the exit of the cave. Sooner or later, all people die, they said about their story. And they have one interesting story about a highly skilled craftsman. He was immune to 1,000 poisons and had stone-like longevity. Thanks to this, no poison could kill him, and no sword could wound him. We can say that he was almost invincible. There was not a single person outside who could kill him. He could neither be wounded nor killed with a sword. But there is one thing that old stories cannot tolerate: invincibility. Kim was called a child of the outside world, and asked if he could guess how this master died. The girl smiled and said that he was killed by a succubus. It was the pleasure of uniting yin and yang, not poison, not a sword, but excessive pleasure. That is why they did not offer him a storm of pleasure from the very beginning. It was clever, slowly waiting for the right moment, starting with snowy pleasures. But in the end, the master succumbed to deadly pleasure. In the name of the union with the succubus, he did not even notice how her touch hurt him. The kiss of the succubus was like a pleasure for the master. Her gestures and even her eyes brought him happiness. And in the last moments, the succubus strangled him. At that moment, no martial art helped him. His face shone with happiness and pleasure as he suffocated from the strangulation. He was smiling even after death. He was invulnerable both outside and inside, but vulnerability remained in happiness. The moral of the story is simple. Don't play with the succubus. It's not just an old story. It's an action that took place. In the Tanman, he was a master craftsman raised among jades and gold. The succubus was sent to kill him, and at that moment our hero was brought to an ice mountain from which zombies were visible, and the girl began to go down to them with the words, "Beginners who have studied martial arts will not understand." They think that the goal of martial arts masters is to gain invulnerability in order to achieve immortality and eternal life. But they are wrong. Someone who develops immunity to 1,000 poisons will die from something else. The one who gained the durability of a stone will die from something other than a sword. And this story reminds us that a martial artist does not just choose which martial art to master. He chooses what kind of warrior he is going to become and what kind of death he is going to collect. And soon all people will die. Why should they be upset about death? But the girl passing by these frozen statues was not alive. Killing someone poisoned has its pros and cons. It's not even bad to be attacked by an army or killed by a Shanghainese monk. It is unpleasant, but not bad to accept death from a comrade who betrayed you. It is fine to die for the sake of the future generation. But death by gangsterism is unacceptable, and the guy's eyes just light up at what he sees. He asked these masters how they could endure. But all that keeps them on this earth is that they want to die the death they chose for themselves. The cause of their death is the same, but the date is different. It feels like someone deliberately moved the bodies, the alchemist said, examining the bodies. Not many survive to this day, and under the bright night moonlight, not like the sun, but one that set new zombies. And the boy remembered what the girl had said when she said they were fighting a new war. It was snowing. The right-wing sect factions would never fall to the gangs, the old man said. And the people of the girl's sect cannot be destroyed by corpses, but people were dying. And they were shouting that if their factions were to come to an end, it would be at the hands of the demon sect. And if the demon sect was to disappear, it would be by the sword of the right-wing faction. And even if the 9 great schools and 5 noble clans disappear, even if the martial arts manuscripts become so dusty that they are unreadable, until then, this world has not disappeared into oblivion, because they are their representatives. If we imagine that there are billions of people in the world, and only one of them is left with the infection, then this world still exists thanks to their struggle and heritage. And if the last person is able to take his or her life into his or her own hands, then the destruction of the world will be caused not by disease, but by suicide, which is what we are talking about. There are only 2 people left, and this old man and this girl are fighting only to die their own deaths. They accept the battle until the enemy surrenders or dies. As it was 3 years ago, they fight with such limitations until they die to accept their fate, not from the disease, but from the fate that was being prepared for them. Their movements were as slow as children's. They were slowly dying for 990 days, but they kept fighting. Kim, looking at this, realizes that it has to be stopped. It's absolutely absurd, and it shouldn't have happened. In the eyes of the Lord of the Sword, a fight can seem great. No matter what his thoughts or ulterior motives might be, it can be humiliating for both of them, as this fight will lead to nothing. But the rear spirit asks Kim what he can do in this situation. Could he kill one of them? Perhaps that would be a good decision, and he would do so. But Kim reminds him that they are just strangers in this place, and they can't just interfere. They only want to die by each other's hands, and Kim takes it upon himself to end this world in his own way. The days and winters were getting shorter, and they had to go to their cave. They postponed their fight until tomorrow and went to the cave. When they returned, the poisonous snake asked where they had been all this time. The alchemist was about to say that they had been working on the infection and what progress they had made. The old man replied that there was no progress yet. The demoness thought so. She is not surprised and goes to rest. But Kim realizes that the alchemist is lying and asks her to tell her honestly how long it will take them to find a cure. At this point, she takes off her glasses and says that it's not only a matter of time, but also of resources, which they have few. She told them that, to be honest, they need 120 days, and maybe twice as long, maybe 3 times as long. In situations like this, you need a lot of time. Even if we don't have that time, it's not enough. And at best, it's 100 days, and at worst, 300 days, and they may not succeed. The conditions and equipment leave much to be desired. She apologizes to the King of Death, but she cannot guarantee anything. But if you remember the words of the Deputy Library Director, they will wake up 10 days before the end of the world, and if they don't make a cure in 10 days, the world will end. Kim realizes that these days are not enough, but he tells his friends that it's okay, they don't have to worry, he will try to solve the time issue, and they just have to continue their research. And if they remember the words that when they first came to this world, it was not an ordinary book, but a whole world. And if they didn't come here to save it, then his words are the same as yesterday. There is a time limit. If they fail, they will stay here forever. But they just need to put aside all their doubts and thoughts. Kim takes on the responsibility to do everything in his power to get them back, and they must not let him down. The alchemist at this point promises to pay his debt, and promises that the problems will be solved. As a sign of trust, she gives him her hand, and they shake hands. The guy sees her as a future master of alchemy. She tells him to trust her and keep working. Kim asks him to trust her and continue working on the cure. If not for this girl, he would still be living in the slums. But the girl also appreciates him. If it weren't for him, she wouldn't be able to realize her potential, and her equipment would be taken away. She promises the King of Death that she will give him everything she can to invent a cure. However, she loses touch with the world around her when she focuses on her work, and might even forget about the rules of decency. So it doesn't matter, she'll just do her best. The girl adjusts her glasses and promises that she will. She also tells the old man not to forget that his support will be needed in full. Soon, to keep the old man quiet and from grumbling under his breath, the girl opens her skill card. The old man is furious that she is showing off her skills to him. The problem is that the main thing for young people nowadays is skills, the old man says. The girl interrupts him, telling him to look at her skills. The old man is amazed that she is going to reveal her skills to him, even though they are her rivals. But if he wasn't going to do it, she could show him herself. The girl had the skill, Portable Hospital, and thanks to it, she can perform all procedures, from blood tests to sound examinations, in real time. She can use pre-prepared medicines and administer them with accuracy, where the probability of a misdiagnosis is only 2%. Her evidence of life skill allows her to determine the patient's condition at the genetic level, minimizing the likelihood of a continuous diagnosis by combining the two skills. Showing the old man her skill, the girl made him scream. He was outraged. If he revealed it to the alchemists in his industry, she would be finished. The girl replied, "Do whatever you want. Just show me support in creating a cure." The old man didn't want to agree, but it was necessary to create a cure quickly. Coming closer to the old man, the girl looked him in the eye and asked, "Why do you despise me? Are you angry because an experienced child does not know his place? Are you annoyed that a person like me has talent?" She was sure he was furious because she was younger, which meant she would be praised much longer than he would. She offered all the recipes she had come up with. If he can help her, she will never say they are hers, and he can use them for his own purposes. But the inadequate old man, furious and unclear about what, slapped her. In a rage, he called her a little scum, and threatened that one day she would face his wrath and end up at the bottom of a well. But despite the blow, the girl continued to research the zombie disease. She was unfazed, even when her glasses fell off. She knew what she was doing and was ready to continue her work. And despite this mockery, she asks for her simple request to be fulfilled, to which the old man replies that the day will come when her pride will be destroyed and she will completely rot. The jealous old man does not calm down, but the girl asks him to do as he says. She has already written down what she needs, and because of that she needs to find it, although the old man does not want to do it, and all the time threatens her with meeting her fate. After all these words were spoken, they became quiet and understood each other, although it was difficult. They asked the King of Death to leave the cave because his breath distracts her. It affects her process very much. She cannot concentrate. The old man got to work and told Kim to bring them 6 more zombies when he gets out, because they need more samples. A child, a young man, an old man, and all different genders. And he also needs to get the ingredients, so if he sees them, he should definitely bring them. The boy, as always, takes full responsibility and starts drawing on the rock with his sword. Another day in their apocalypse. Although it was hard for everyone, lately the Marima Master's body has not been listening to him at all, and the Ganzi have scattered today. They cannot go far. They need to keep going. Soon, although it became more difficult to fight these zombies, our heroes began to bring the necessary materials to the cave. They brought zombie children, zombie men, and zombie women. This meant that the work was in full swing, and working as a team, everyone was trying to complete this quest, staying awake at night, sitting over candles, studying every fragment that could indicate what could be learned from these patients to understand that they are not broken. And soon a week passed. The snowy Murim sky does not stop carrying wind and snow. The demoness approaches Kim and tells him that they cannot go outside today. Days like this are really rare. It's even strange that it's been sunny lately. Worst of all, when it snows for 30 days, they can't go outside because there is no sun. In such weather, the Ghanaians keep moving. It's normal for them, but it's very hard to catch them if they get too far away. Demonessa is ready for them to lose them all. Her sect had almost 1,000 people just 3 years ago, and the bastards from the righteous faction that the old man had grafted on were the same number. Time went by. The Ghanaians went around, but they could not find them. Kim realizes that this is a pretty scary story, and he feels sorry for them. But the girl's pain knew no bounds when she wakes up and goes outside, and the Ghanaian who was there in the morning starts to disappear. She feels fear, and Kim shares her pain and suffering, understanding her feelings. The world has turned upside down. If someone had decided to tell her this, she would have been left without a head. But Kim, being a child from a foreign land, should be happy that the world has come to an end. However, Kim does not agree with her. She is the head of a military alliance, a martial arts master. Her knowledge is remarkable, and he cannot compare to her. But no matter how great warriors they are, their energy is not infinite. One day it will run out, even though they clamp down on their chi points with their energy. They know that their breathing, arm, and leg movements are controlled by their energy. Regardless of its strength, this cannot go on forever. People die sooner or later, and Kim asks her again when she will run out of chi energy. This is a rather painful topic for the girl, and she doesn't want to talk about it. But she notices that, for a child from a foreign land, he is quite intelligent. Looking at Kim, the girl realizes that he is ready to help her and her people, and this gives her hope. But she did not answer his question. Kim asks how many days are left. The reason why the Heavenly Demon Chronicles has ended would be clearer if you think about it. None of them can move anymore if they run out of energy. That's if the heart, lungs, upper dantian are operated on, everything will rot except these 3 parts. Kim was outraged that she already knew this. The demoness had experience because the Shaolin monk had stayed with them for exactly 1 year. He entered nirvana, as a monk should, in the lotus position. Everything but his face became like other Gansa, and his body was rotting. All he said in farewell was, "Amitabha." That was his last word. Kim said that he felt scared. And it is really scary to be in such a time and place. He is afraid of the moment when the chai energy runs out, and the demoness is also afraid that she will have no vitality left. Even a snowstorm and sunlight scare her. She is afraid that her body will disappear in the light of day. She is afraid that she will not be able to kill the old man, and the old man will not be able to kill her. She is afraid that the day will come when neither she nor the old man will be able to move anymore. Because of this, she is afraid that she and the old man will have to lie down and wait for the moment when the chi energy is exhausted. The old man, lying in bed, turned on his side and said that he was sorry, but he will never be able to move, feeling that he is aware of it, and the tears do not come back in his eyes. That's how scared he is that it will all happen soon, and no matter how regretful it is inevitable. And this senseless death does not give her peace. She thinks she is scared. It doesn't even make sense to her to fight to the last in a world where these two will quietly disappear. It will just snow from the sky, and all that will be left behind is a colorless landscape. Soon the alchemist checked the old man's condition and apologized to everyone. In his current state, he could not be cured. The demoness approached the old man and told him to get up, but he was lying down, losing consciousness, and apologized to her. But the girl said that she was not here to listen to his damned mockery and apologies. "Get up, ruler of Muramu, Walson. Get up immediately. Didn't we make a deal? You said that you would challenge the heavenly demon world and plant the banner of righteous faith at the top. Didn't the 9 great schools and 5 noble clans come together to fight a large-scale battle? You can't just die on your bed." "Get up and get your weapons!" the girl shouted at him. The demoness could not accept this, and dark energy began to fill the room. Horrified, Kim and the alchemist realize what is happening. The dark energy is spreading through the cave, and the demoness is screaming for the old man to take up arms and fight. But the old man lies down, and his life leaves him. He just says, "I'm sorry." The girl cannot accept this, and forces the old man to get up quickly. But he has already accepted his weakness. He tried to hold on for at least a day, but with every breath his torment intensified, and she could feel it too. The last of his vital energy was draining from his body, and he had no physical strength left. Perhaps the girl could hold out for another hour, but he had reached his limit. He regrets it, does not accept his weakness compared to her, and only asks her to kill him. He doesn't want to be like the head of the Shaolin, and asks her to destroy his body before it rots. Because if he becomes a Gant, she will look in front of her, but see nothing alive. It will be just torture. So he wants her to kill him, while he is still lying on the bed. How dare he say that to her? She will never cross that line. Does he really want their fight to end like this? He should have attacked her to death and taken her to the underworld. What the hell kind of glory does that give him? But the old man got together and tried to gather all the members of the Righteous Faith faction to order them to self-destruct. Why did he hope for this so stubbornly? Namgun is praised and envied by many influential people because he was born with the perfect body for mastering martial arts and reached his peak at the age of 20. He became the head of the Semingun before he turned 30. He was elected ruler of Muram when the demonic sect gained huge attention. Almost the entire purpose of the faction practically lives in him, and the memory of the dead rests in his heart. But even so, do you want to die by the cursed hand? The girl promises him that she will kill him, but his death cannot be called beautiful. Everyone in the cave was listening to her dialogues with the old man. But what was that dark energy coming from her? The girl was already holding an axe, a huge axe that did not belong to her. She pointed this axe that was so beloved to him and shook it, emphasizing that he loved it so much. But he should forget that it was his favorite weapon. And the old man looked at her and said, "Heavenly demon, speak. The warrior has forgotten his skill. The skill will be lost forever, but for the sake of the warrior, say this phrase again." And she killed him. This phrase means the end of the faction of Righteous Faith. The head of the demonic sect demanded that the governor of Murima personally recognize the destruction of the faction. Only after receiving his confession would she be ready to take his life. But the old man did not answer her, and the demoness became furious because he was not even able to say it. His weak arms could not even lift up, and he admitted that he could not. Crying, he says that he cannot say this phrase, clenching his teeth, and asks only to forgive him. Out of anger, the girl simply does not know how to calm herself down and hits the old man's head with an axe. She recalls his words that if he becomes a Ghanaian, he will not live, but will simply exist, and it doesn't matter if he dies now, it won't be called death. The girl didn't hit the old man in the head with the axe, she just stuck it next to him. She turned around and left, because life is not life, and death is not death. She herself does not know the difference between these concepts, and looking once again at Murim's snow, she realizes that everything is meaningless. For her, heaven and earth have turned into emptiness, and the 9th star is the apocalypse. Murima's steward, Namgun, died of an illness. She received this as an image. There is a limit to the analysis of the virus by infected people who have been turning into zombies for many years. With this sample, they can perhaps observe the development of the infection in real time, says the alchemist. But he doesn't become a zombie immediately after death. He awakens. It may take some time for the infectious agent to spread throughout the brain. The girl summarized all the results of the study. The old man realizes that although this girl may be able to make medicine, she's not able to explain it properly, because she is proud, and you can't stand up to pride. The alchemist ignores the old man and continues to report that they have done everything to research the virus. But it is impossible to develop a cure. Since they don't have enough time, they need at least 90 days, and ideally 120 days. Soon the patient who was lying tied up screamed. He screamed like a real zombie, wheezing and coughing. It looked quite pathetic, although it scared the people there. But the demoness looked at it as a minor event. How can this man be any different from an animal? He eats and eats until his body stops moving, and then he just disappears. A warrior who has forgotten his skill is forever lost to the warrior. The demoness puts her hand right into the zombie's mouth, saying, "Look." Everyone present wanted to stop her because they were afraid that she would also become a Ganzi. But the demoness said that the end had come, and then a light shone around her, illuminating everything. Her arm was struck by a Ganzi bite, and soon she would become a demon. She would become a zombie, and the meaning of life would dissolve into burned hopes. She falls down and starts laughing. A red light spreads throughout the space. The body spirit tells his friend Kim to be careful. The demoness is possessed by the devil and something is wrong with her. Her face turned snow white, and she seemed to wake up saying, "Warriors, have you come to kill me? Great. Let them attack. Let's cross our swords." Kim tells everyone present that they need to run away. The demoness quickly started running forward and took the life of the old medicine king. It was a real setup. The poisonous snake ran out to stop her, and Kim and the alchemist ran to the exit. It was a really scary sight. The demoness went crazy. Her demonic power went beyond all limits. Perhaps this was due to the complete release of energy, and now it is on the verge of life and death. Even if he returned alive in his heyday, 4 times out of 10 he would definitely lose. The crazy demoness was filled with a dark aura, saying that the heavens were filled with sorrow, and the earth was plunged into sleep. The universe is in grief, and only ashes will remain of Wudang. The demon sect is now Murim's heaven, and it is the heaven of the demon sect. What right does the heavenly heavens have to condemn? The poisonous serpent confronts the demoness, yelling at Kim to grab the pharmacist and run. The demoness shouts that they won't succeed. Let them run away as long as they want. All the while, she is looking for Namgun. No matter how dense and vast the forest and sky are, there is only one person who can take her sword under this sky. Spirits, bring Namgun to her immediately. The space is darkened by devilish energy. The girl holds her weapon over the king of death and wants to take his last life. Holding Kim in the pharmacist's arms, she realizes that things are pretty bad. The alchemist says that she believes him, despite all this. But then the system announces that they are dead. The demoness has taken over the entire space, standing over the silhouettes of her enemies, silent and unmarked, with no smell of destruction. She makes people languish in the sun. People whose skin was scorched by the sun. This world was buried under the snow, leaving only a white snowfield behind. But that man does not consider the return and destruction to be the end. Kim goes back and now promises that he will save her world. This method uses inner energy. A little girl was walking through a winter blizzard and saw her mother's large footprints. She walked forward and saw her silhouette, but her mother was standing there, not moving. The little girl asked, "Are you my mom?" But this woman was moving away from her and moving away. To catch up, the girl began to run, but it was all in vain. When she was young, the heavenly demon did not even know whether her mother had abandoned her, or whether she had said goodbye with the help of a snowstorm, or whether she had really lost her. She didn't know that. Kim finds himself in the lobby and the system alerts him that he has been fined. Standing up abruptly, he asks the rear spirit if he has memorized the pharmaceutical studies. If you combine and study what he filled out, then the pieces of the puzzle should fit together. You had to go back as quickly as possible before anything slipped your mind. There was no time to think, and the rear spirit recommends choosing a skill as soon as possible, taking one skill with both hands. He looks at what we have here and sees that the skill offers divine devil energy. This skill is pretty good because the demon sect hates the laws of heaven. They created a faction and formed a divine teaching whose energy is art. The more you hate and curse this world, the more colorless the sky becomes. The guy realizes that this is the same martial art they just saw with their own eyes. A typical demonic art. The rear spirit had its own opinion about it. Any art is an illusionary trap. Ultimately, any way depends only on how he decides to overcome the difficulties in this world. If he magnanimously tries to accept the world, then he usually joins the faction of righteous faith. If he seeks to strike this world like a typhoon, he will most likely become part of a demonic sect. Thus, the warriors of Muriam from the faction of righteous faith make their bodies vessels that receive Muriam. Those who belong to the demonic sect grow claws that destroy the world. The rear spirit decided to give a simple example. Standing in a pose, he made a slice from top to bottom and was filled with aura and light energy. In his world, this is called in some sects the attacking pose of the tiger or the kick of the bull, but it doesn't matter anymore. Well, it doesn't matter whether it's a tiger or a bull, because the skills differ from each other depending on what enlightenment the creator of the martial arts has achieved. In any case, it is important to fight both the tiger and the bull a little bit. It instructs him to make something of the world his own. This is what the phase of acceptance of the world means, but demonic art is a little different. This is what demonic sects say when they learn techniques. The rear spirit is filled with dark energy. It breaks space like glass right in front of our hero's eyes, whispering, "Fulfill your anger." Then he stabbed him in the stomach. Remember the moment when the ruler took your younger sister away? Remember your weakness, when you could do nothing but put your sister's corpse against the door of the administration. Remember how you buried your sister's body alone. It was winter. The ground was frozen. It was hard to dig, but you continued to dig the frozen ground with your bare hands. Your legs were broken, blood was flowing from the cuts, and in the end, she could not even rest in peace in the pit, covered with earth. Remember every grain of earth. Take the sword with the hand that dug the earth, and hold a grudge against the cruelty of this world, the claws that will destroy the world. Our hero, Kim, was simply amazed by these words. These words made everything in his soul chill. The method of using inner energy is literally a way to awaken and channel it. It doesn't matter if you are a martial artist or a hunter. Ultimately, victory depends on how well you use your internal energy, chi. Simply put, it's a battle of willpower. In the demonic arts, the power of the spirit is always in a suppressed state. In any case, zombies don't necessarily learn this, and our hero thought about the words of the rear spirit. But despite all this, the words sounded like he would start doing it. The rear spirit did not understand the boy's determination at first, but he repeated that he had said he would study it. When asked why, he replied, "Because I want to." And was he really impressed by the swordplay organized by the heavenly demon? Oh, he must be out of his mind, the rear spirit thought. The heavenly demon had exhausted all his strength and was on the verge of death. The rear spirit warns him that he will be drained like a lemon, and all his strength will be sucked out. Zombies shouldn't be caught up in such an illusion. Compared to his martial arts, this kind of demonic art is just pathetic junk. But to all of the rear spirit's remarks, our hero repeats that he may be offended by him because he wants to learn something that no one else has but his partner. He tells the Sword Lord not to worry, as he is the strongest in the universe, and not to think that he is unaware of this devil's energy. The rear spirit realizes that he is indeed the strongest. Then why is he trying to learn the divine technique of the sectarians? Kim smiled and told him that it was to flawlessly conquer the stage. Even if the cure is found, it will end up saving 2 people. The other people have already been dead for over 2 years, and if they receive the treatment, they are unlikely to survive. What will the ending be then? In his opinion, the Marima Lords and the Heavenly Demon will become Adam and Eve. He thinks that's a good ending. The mere thought of this is disgusting to the rear spirit. Just imagining this scene is a horror. Creating a cure is the first condition for a good ending, but a flawless ending depends on the character being able to satisfy everyone else. He wants to give the Muriam Lord and the Heavenly Demon an ending where they will be satisfied, and by selecting a card, the skill has been copied. After that, the system gives him a penalty for using the skill, and white light blinds his eyes. This is where the Heavenly Demon's nightmare ends, or doesn't end. He has to go through what is called a past enemy trauma, and the penalty level is average. Someday Kim will be able to talk about it in peace. Right now, he's diving into the ghost road, returning to the stage. It's still cold here, and it's not stopping snowing. What kind of Siberia is this? What kind of permafrost? The guy soon takes the alchemist's hand. It warms her up, and she thanks him for it. The guy, returning to this scene, recalls the moment when everything went wrong. Based on his experience, he saw a human shadow in the distance. They approached these zombies again, just like in the previous scene. It was clear that the people were frozen. Kim said they looked like zombies and emphasized to everyone to look here. He pointed out a piece of meat stuck in the zombie's teeth, as if it was biting something, like a wild animal. The alchemist confirmed that it was indeed the DNA of a corpse or a piece of flesh in his mouth, but they did not match. They are completely different from each other. She also noted that the man died 3 years ago, and the pieces of flesh belonged to a corpse that died 2 years ago. It's hard to imagine, but this corpse has been moving around and living for about a year. The King of Medicines noticed that the guy was touching them so freely and calmly. It was not bad, as the progress was faster than in the previous episode. Our hero decided to show an amazing skill to the Master of Alchemy and the King of Medicines. He has a unique skill. According to the analysis of his skill that they put together with the rear spirit, he told them that he already knew how to speed up their research. It was indeed an amazing way to research flaws. The alchemist noticed this, but her vocabulary was different from his. Yet she said that Kim was a great talent. In any case, the Medicine King was glad that they were able to cut down on the research time. He wanted to stay away from the zombies and be somewhere warmer. Soon, they noticed the current characters who were still alive and kept fighting. They were arguing, but still in normal form. Kim recalls the moment when the girl said that even a dog passing by fell over laughing. He also remembers the demoness's eyes when she said that she was very scared, and even the heavens were trembling with fear. The girl claimed that she was the best in the world, and they fought with each other in the same spirit. She is the strongest woman in the world, Kim realizes. And that's why she lived to the end in the previous scene. She is a warrior who has realized what it means to be the king of this land. When they saw the demoness, everyone was amazed. A young man knelt before her and said that he came here after learning of the greatness of the heavenly demon, and he felt deeply admired by his reputation as the best among men in ancient times. He does not know how long this will last. He begs the celestial demon on his knees to take him as a disciple, and this is a truly unexpected twist that changes the scenario. For a long time the girl was lying in the snow, and the storm did not subside. It was very cold, and she felt abandoned. There was complete silence, and she could not see anything in this cold. She could not even smell anything. She felt as if her internal organs were freezing, and she could barely breathe. She asked her mom to help her, but she was not there. Suddenly, a bright light came down from the sky, dispelling the dark snow clouds. Either a goddess or someone unknown to the girl came down from the sky to her, or just a ray of sunshine. It was a woman who was surprised that a blizzard had been raging in the area for 9 days, with snow reaching a depth of almost 1.5 meters. How could this child still breathe? She took the girl by the jacket and started to lift her up, amazed that this little child had survived in such difficult conditions. She held out her hand to her, telling her that she was unbending with an ice body, and that very soon the whole cold world would become her inner energy. It was amazing, and it could not have been possible. The child had survived 10 days in the snow. Her body had become a polar miracle, like in the books the woman had read so often. The woman turned to the girl and asked her name, but the girl could not answer accurately. When asked how old she was, the girl could not answer because she did not know for sure and did not remember how she ended up here. The woman noticed that the girl did not understand anything. The poor thing at that age had already experienced the cruelty of the laws of earth and heaven. Nevertheless, she was an ideal vessel for learning martial arts. The Lord of the North Sea himself would have given millions of gold coins to have a talent like her brought to him. What an ironic fate. The woman patted the girl's head. It was hard to tell if her sect would be her destiny. Oh my God, this girl is the destiny of this sect. She asked her if she would follow her. She promised that she would feed her and put a roof over her head, but the girl was just silent. She didn't feel anything. The woman realized that without a name and unknown origin, this child born from the snow needed a name. She gave her a surname, and because of her snowy smell, she called her Bekai. Now the girl had a name, and she became a member of the demon sect. The girl took the woman's finger and asked where they were going. The woman replied that it would be a place where children like her gathered. When Kim asked her to mentor him, the woman rejected his offer. She explained that she had never had a student, because no matter what the world was like, its laws were unchanged. A student was a word for her. The old man said that the girl's pettiness surprised him. It seemed strange to him that children from the borderlands survived. In his opinion, we can put an end to it. They went through such a difficult world to become her disciples. Isn't that worthy of praise? The demon girl said that maybe it is worthy of praise, but nevertheless, there is a law for mentoring, and it is actually very strict. They never allow reckless people to enter their sect, and only abandoned children can enter the demon sect. The old man noted that even in his righteous sect, they are very picky about the choice of people. He approached the boy and told him that Kim could become his disciple because he was Namgun, the ruler of Murim and the head of the Tayson family. If he gets used to him as a student. Before Namgun could finish his sentence, the boy asked the heavenly demon why she couldn't take him as an apprentice. Namgun noted that he had been ignored by the boy and was shocked, and the heavenly demon asked him if he was deaf, because only people rejected by this world can join her sect. But when Kim looked at this world, he noticed that the world had changed. People had turned into gangrene due to a mysterious disease. Schools of righteous faith and demonic Marima sects had also all died. And so it happened that the world abandoned people. All of them are rejected by the world, and while the girl may or may not like it, what is probably more important is that he is a hunter. He is an orphan who has devoted himself to the tower. Once again, he appealed to the heavenly demon, saying that the situation was quite satisfactory and acceptable to the sect. Although it is a shame to say that he has been rejected by the world, it can be said that he himself has turned away from the world. After these arguments, the demoness finally decided to agree. If he is so confident, then let him try the 3 foundations technique. Then she could make sure that he had inherited the teachings of her sect and was not just a lip-syncer. He thanked her for the chance, picked up his sword, and began to demonstrate his skills. Using the skill, he activated his aura, which filled his sword and actions with dark energy. The divine energy of the devil was activated, and his eyes were filled with a dark aura. At that moment, he saw the path of the sword, and many movements were drawn in his mind. Only he could see these movements. He had not yet mastered the techniques of the divine devil energy. His fencing was like a sparrow chasing a stork. If he continued to maintain his good condition, he would be able to overcome his helplessness and resentment of the cruelty of this world. Kim made a promise to cope with it and tear all doubts to pieces. He was filled with old experiences and situations in which he hated this world. The more he immersed himself in the technique, the more his thoughts changed. The basis of a demonic sect is screaming, not claws, and the voices in his head whispered, "People you don't consider human will be consumed by your anger. The world created by the yin-yang principle will always be full of sadness. No matter how wise you are, the time limit of 3 days cannot surpass the cry of rejected people. The sword of sorrow is sharper than the sword of yin-yang, and the screaming sword moves the sword more." After demonstrating her abilities, she said, "That's enough." The deeper Kim dived, the louder the scream, the stronger the sword. This meant that only the strongest survive, which is the teaching of the demon sect. He was so immersed in the technique that he didn't hear the demoness's words as she screamed, "Enough!" She began to worry and told him to stop, but he did not respond. She had to use her energy to overwhelm his dim mind. She wondered where he had learned this technique from her sect. Kim couldn't fool her eyes. His movements were sloppy and unrehearsed. But this was a devil energy technique that only members of a demonic sect possess. How could he know this technique if it was unknown to anyone else? After performing the technique, Kim was like in a coma. He couldn't even answer her questions intelligibly. But the girl hit him with a stick and asked him where he had stolen it. When he regained consciousness, he asked, "Am I worthy to master this technique?" This made the girl silent. She stood in the cave and looked at him, not knowing what to say. Soon the King of Death fell unconscious on the ground, hitting a cold stone. He had used too much aura and needed help. The alchemist thought that he needed to have his blood vessels flushed. The demoness, hearing his words, simply walked away into the darkness without giving him an answer to his question. The rear spirit saw that Kim had used this technique and warned him that he had almost died using a higher-level martial art. Because of this, he kept telling him that he needed to build from scratch. Powerless, Kim lay on the ground, not knowing what to say. All the rear spirit said was, "You're not a bad little sparrow. You're just an amazing asshole." The story continues about a little girl whom the woman took to her shelter. The woman said that this city would be her new home. The streets were bustling with life, and people were all running around looking for something. The woman told the girl that at any time she could eat, sleep, or go for a walk if she wanted to. "Bacon, you should live the way you want," the woman said. In this place where they were, there were kind adults who did not force them to do anything. The children at the table were playing, eating, and drinking. One boy asked, Are they going to make us slaves? Another girl replied, Silly, we've been here for a year and there's no hint of that. She had always been alone. She had never paid attention to other people and had never met children. Lately, there had been a lot of new children, perhaps due to a poor harvest year. She realized that the biggest increase was due to orphans. In any case, whoever was lucky enough to get here was a winner. The girl recalled how she was dying of hunger in her hometown. While having lunch at the table, she turned to her friends. She wanted to ask them how they got here. The children looked at her, and everyone wanted to share their story. They told different stories about developed agriculture, about their mother in a brothel, about an uncle with a knife who had stirred up the whole village overnight. The villagers began to fall ill and die en masse. Some were beaten by their fathers, some ran away. Hearing these stories, Beckon remembered her own moment. A vessel of roaring poison, she thought. You are all poisonous animals and insects that have been placed in a jar and closed with a lid. Those who get inside die and gnaw at each other. The last animal to survive becomes the most poisonous creature in the world. Every time the children opened their mouths, poison poured out. It was a collection of different poisons. The girl's next question was whether they were happy. The poisonous children answered that they were happy. This city is not an uninhabited land, but a vessel for growing one single most poisonous creature. After hearing many stories that shook her soul and heart, she realized all of life is suffering, and only the strongest survive. For a long time she was alone, thinking about it all. In these beautiful mountainous areas, where the sun illuminated their life's journey, she found her place and began to realize that she had to become strong to survive. These children lived, slept, ate, and were trained. But one day when the warden came to wake the children up to eat, he noticed that the girl was gone. Although she could have slept well, she was not there. When everyone ate whenever they wanted, she was not there either. She was a stranger to all these plans. She realized that she had to work. Instead of playing with other children, she worked on the field. Although she had plenty of time to play with other children, she chose to work. Hekbe worked with adults all this time, doing farming, and ignored food. She always remembered the words of the aunt who brought her to this paradise, that she could live as she wanted. And one day, when she was sitting by the lake, this aunt visited her again. She came for a reason. She had a question for the girl. She had heard about Hekbek, that she wanted to help farmers with the harvest. The aunt asked if it was true that the clothes she wore and the blanket she used to cover herself with were sewn by the girl herself, working with wool. The girl confirmed this. The aunt asked her why she did this, because she could live as she pleased, without needing anything. The aunt explained that this place is called Utopia. Adults do agricultural work, picking fruit for them, and children just enjoy life. So she asked why the girl should work. The girl, holding a flower in her hands, replied that the farmer at the foot of the mountain had lost his 2 daughters and his husband to the county governor. Mr. Choi, who works in the garden, lost his 2nd son, who was drafted to build a fortress wall. He thought it was unfair and appealed to the officials. As a result, he also lost his 1st son, who died of ill treatment. Mr. Choi and his wife joined their sect after the bodies of their 2 sons were buried in their hometown. The adults who provide them with food and clothing have also suffered in this world. All of us are victims, and no one is an exception. This city is not a paradise. These children do not understand why they are not fed and clothed for free. They are all stupid. The aunt asked why adults do this. The girl replied that she thought the adults hoped they would do the same. Their hearts are consumed with resentment and anger. They can't forgive the county governor from their home region for ruining their lives. They want to take revenge, but they do not have the strength to do so. The girl has heard that martial arts can be learned if you start at an early age, but the adults are old and cannot improve their martial arts skills, so they do agricultural work so that children can learn martial arts. This is the true essence of the so-called utopia. We do not live and eat for free. The main building of the sect has gathered everyone here to take revenge on the world for the people who provide and help these children. At sunset, the aunt looked at the girl, thinking about her words. Turning to her in a cold voice, the woman said her name, Beckon. She said that the girl could tell heaven anything she wanted, and in this situation, Beckon had a lot to say about pain and suffering, about the silhouette of her mother. The woman listened to her words, holding the stick to her forehead, and promised that everything would happen. She said that soon the world would be forced to listen to her because she was Mabul. She comes from a family of elders of her sect, high-ranking people. When the girl heard this, she asked, "Is there a Buddha in hell? What good is Buddha if he is not in hell?" This was all a test that the girl passed to join their sect. Her mind was not clouded by rich food and a cozy bed. "Therefore your poison has been cleansed. Honor me as your master and call me mentor," said the lady. She said that in the future, instead of endless crying and screaming, the sword would ring, and let this little girl allow her to perform the rite of passage. Returning to Muram's world, the heavenly demon approached our hero and ordered him to get up quickly. Kim, feeling weak, said that he could not stand up at all, and if she continued to stand over him like that, they would collide heads. The girl replied that he must be fine, since he was talking so well. She told him to go to the bathroom and wash himself well to clear his mind, and said she would wait at the entrance to the cave. Kim, gradually waking up, approached his colleagues and noticed that they were all sleeping sweetly. He wondered what they were dreaming about, and using the character window, he began to open their thoughts one by one. The King of Medicines dreamed of defeating Marcus, imagining his 99,000th victory over that kid who wasn't even a full pharmacist. The poisonous serpent dreamed of very depraved things. Kim thought it was better not to wake him up, especially the latter. The heavenly demon asked Kim when they left if he had cleaned every corner of his body. He replied that he felt absolutely clean, even in his heart. The sky demon doesn't like people who talk a lot, and she noticed that this guy might be a talker. She assumed that he was most likely a fraud, not a real man, and that he was experiencing problems. At this point, Kim opens the character window to understand what's in her head. She thinks about Kim, that the guy seems to be smart, but he looks clumsy and weak, like a picture of some Hao Mundo. Kim wonders who this Hao Mundo is. The demoness told him to follow her. He would have to pass many tests to get the real clothes of the demon sect. Although he proved his qualifications, he did not pass the exam to enter the sect. The first test of the demon sect is the comfort test. Children who are comfortably fed, clothed, and put to bed are called outsiders. They are raised as farmers, artisans, and cooks. But children who pass the exam are recognized by the family. They become disciples of the sect, and the child begins the official study of demonic martial arts. Only then does he or she officially join the sect. The sky demon asked Kim how he knew all this. The boy replied that he knew a lot of things, although he had actually seen her injury because he had died at her hand. The girl sighed. "Even heaven must be insensitive to send her such a trickster," she said. "Should I really accept a bum like Hao Mundo into the sect?" The rear spirit noticed that even though the guy was a bum, he attracted attention and didn't give up even if he did something stupid. This compliment or insult is a compliment for those who know how to make the world beautiful. As the demoness approached the rock, she said that this place was suitable. She told Kim to rejoice because she was going to accept him as her disciple. The demon way of the celestial heaven does not reject sect members if they have the necessary qualities. The boy gestured that he was ready, but the demoness could not yet officially accept him as a disciple. In his opinion, it was too much. He had come to her from a distant land to learn from her, had shown his suitability, but he could not officially become her disciple. Demoness thought his words were too suspicious. She doubted that he was a child from the outer lands, and perhaps he had admired her since ancient times. If she trusted her intuition, everything he said seemed like a lie to her, but he didn't look like a scum. Kim wondered where she got her good intuition from, but she thought he was naturally good. It was hard to say whether the sect would become his destiny, or whether he would become the sect's destiny. Kim could not stand it any longer, and asked her what kind of test she had prepared for him. At this point, the girl pointed to the side. She said that he had to fight the late Jisoo, a famous Murima master. If he defeated him, the demoness would accept him. However, if he could not win, he would have to fight while feeling hungry. Kim realized that he was still not her official disciple, just empty words. In the heart of the heavenly demon, he was already a disciple of the sect, who would become its heir to the technique. He felt that the heavenly demon considered him to be a disciple already. She told him to do as she said. His heart must be filled with hunger and pain while fighting the Ganzi. He is not allowed to immerse himself in other emotions and images. Will he be able to cope with this? She ordered him to fight like a hungry man. Every movement should be full of hunger, as if he were dying of it. Only then will the technique of divine energy be fully revealed. Kim had a question about what would happen when hunger took over the sword. The heavenly demon replied that a person who has never been hungry will be able to dispel 50% of the members of Muram's righteous faith faction with one blow, turning them into nothing. These are the claws that destroy the world. First, master the image of hunger, then the image of thirst for death. You need to be able to wield a sword while feeling this thirst, so that someone who has never felt this way can. And he will learn all these 9 swords. These swords are enough to turn this world upside down, and it was quite interesting. But then why is it that when he fights he goes down to hell? Kim has to figure it out. On this enthusiasm, our hero set out to prove to the demoness that he was worth something. It will be a legendary battle with zombies. What is most incompatible with zombies is a wind wave created by palm strikes. And at this moment, our hero Kim is dodging this blow, because it is a real powerful blow that sweeps away everything in its path. Kim does not understand what kind of madness this is and how zombies can have such powers. The sky demon wants him to show his thirst and not just swing his sword around. She told him to remember the suffering of the people who died of hunger. If he waves his sword so meaninglessly, he will become a meaningless shell for the devil's divine energy technique. The point is that Kim is not particularly hungry now, but the zombie is notable for its hungry nature. Constant attacks force the boy to dodge just to avoid the zombie's blows, which are quite aggressive. The demoness reminds him that he can think about hunger if there is no food in front of his eyes. Can't he restore the feeling of hunger? Partly he cannot because he is not used to the feeling of hunger, but he must develop this feeling. Studying the divine energy of the devil should be a free expression of one's feelings. The instruction is as follows. To remember when he was hungry, to let this feeling go through him. Where he was, what he wanted to taste most, how he felt hungry. The guy was hungry for 3 to 4 days at most, but he didn't feel anything special. The heavenly demon was amazed that the boy had been hungry for only 4 days. What nonsense. The celestial empire had long experienced periods of lean years. How could he have been hungry for only 4 days and not be the child of a noble family? Kim replies that the city they came from is much richer than the central regions of China. Demonessa says that hunger is the deepest feeling, a pain that does not subside even for 1 day. People are created to live by satisfying hunger, and there is no difference between the hunger of a rich man and a poor man. How can he awaken the divine energy of the devil if he does not know this feeling? Fighting off the strong blows of the zombie, he recalls that he often went hungry during the 10 years he was a F-rank hunter, when he bought food and spent money in places that only gave an extra portion of 4 rice cages. The girl could not stand it. She had hopes, but as she thought, the guy had no inner core. No matter how hard Kim tried to stop her, she just left the battlefield. At least wait for Kim, he asked. Being hungry is something strange. Is that the only reason he can't master a martial art? What kind of problem is this? But as soon as Kim was distracted, the zombie attacked and destroyed him, and he realizes that he has found himself in the lobby of a system that offers to choose something. He has gone through so many difficulties in his entire life. What is wrong with him? To which the spirit replies that she has a completely traditional education. She teaches the one and only coming of 12 months. Therefore, everything was said correctly. Rage filled our hero's veins. Anger took over. He agrees with this and says that everything will be as she said. Finding himself in the same place again, he is not going to give up because of her behavior. He should be grateful that she gave him the opportunity to believe in the difficult. But he literally burned in the fire. The poisonous snake stops the boy, asking where he is going. Kim replies that he needs to find one thing to clear the stage. This time, he is serious. The rear spirit notices that the guy is off his rocker and acting like a blind idiot when he loses his temper, and he is disappointed that they will spend another 10 days on meaningless self-flagellation. Arriving at the next cave, the guy starts to accumulate energy. To all these comments on his actions, the rear spirit only says that he has gone crazy. He is going to sit in the dark cave until he dies of hunger. What's the big deal? Kim asks. The spirit told him that he was the stupidest person in the world and asked why he had to suffer watching such antics. Kim just waved his hand and said that the spirit was too noisy, to which the spirit only asked him one question. How many days do you plan to go without food? To this, Kim replied that he had seen the injury of the heavenly demon when he went without food for 111 days, and he was going to go for 112 days. The rear spirit reminded him that he was crazy, and that he would not be able to last more than 100 days. If you look at the weather, the cold is terrible. How is he going to use the aura for 100 days? Also, surviving more than 100 days is no longer the realm of hunger or cold. If not, then he can't talk about it so easily. To this, Kim replied that in his youth he also practiced fasting following other monks. He felt hungry for a few days, but after about 2 weeks he just stopped feeling it. It's not fasting, it's just mental training, he repeated again. It's just mental training. According to Kim, this was the answer. It turns out he needs to fast for 15 days and then just repeat every 15 days. But what did he say? Kim replied that he would not eat anything for 15 days and would try to hold out until the hunger reached its peak. Then he would die and just continue to stay within the 15 days, so the hunger would not change. He will not repeat this for 112 days, and thus the aura will not weaken, and he will continue to feel hungry. The spirit could not say anything to him in response, because it was a real psychopathic trick. He simply said that he needed to learn from him, and not to make a strange sect head his teacher. He repeated it again. If you need a teacher, then learn from me. What the hell is driving Kim to such madness? Looking out at the snowy weather, Kim said, I want to perfectly master the devil's divine energy technique. And do you know why the heavenly demon became desperate for the world? Why did the chronicles of the heavenly demon come to an end? The heavenly demon made this world empty, and he felt no sense in living on. But he did not want this beautiful world to die. He regretted that he would have to end this world, and that darkness would swallow everything around him. It's easy to live like an elderly spirit, with the skills of all the newbies in the machine, better than everyone else. Because he won thanks to these skills, the rest of us are not capable of doing so. So he only attacks the stages he is comfortable with. He laughs at others and remains cynical. If he gets lost, he looks cool. But in reality, it's not that simple. Cynicism is not funny. Only how others laugh cynically at others is funny. Cult theory is neither funny nor amusing. Not only those who live by their cult theory can judge. He is also a man who wants to live. But how to live? The answer is obvious. Sitting in this cave, the worldview illuminates them, and new judgments give rise to new ideas. Kim has been on a hunger strike for a week now. The first days were the hardest and most painful. On the third day, his stomach pain disappeared. He stopped grumbling. His train of thought slowed down, and his life began to fade away, like a river overflowing with hunger. This was what he had been waiting for. Was it thirst? Probably not. All his efforts would be in vain if he sat around doing nothing. When the rear guard asked him what he was doing, our hero answered, I'm training. He was very wrong, very, very deeply wrong. The hunger that the heavenly demon spoke of is not just a grueling starvation while sitting still. It is a thirst. It is the refusal of a crumb of bread when you are hungry as a dog, and the feeling that you are leaving this world. During this week he thought about the starving farmer. Is there a farmer who will not go out into the field just because he is hungry? Regardless of his condition, he has to work. But even though he works hard, he still has nothing to eat. He continues to wield the hoe and dig up the land. But it was a bad year, and no matter how hard he tries, the land still does not germinate and nothing grows on it. In a difficult situation, he can do nothing, and because of this, he continues to feel hungry. 6 months have passed since the rain irrigated the land, but nothing has grown on it. The reservoir is empty, and the well in the village is dry. There is not a drop of water in the rice field. Some villagers have already left their fields and homes and gone towards the seacoast. But this farmer did not cut his ties with his native land. He was told that he would be able to do the same thing nearby. A person lives only by stealing, and the farmer learned to steal only the food he gets from the land. Every day, the farmer goes to the rice field, even though he knows it's pointless. When the sun goes down, he climbs a mountain and strips the bark off the trees so he can eat it. But now even the trees have no bark left. Hunger has turned his world white. The white world symbolizes emptiness and suffering. He cannot even eat the bark, and his family is starving. He cannot sit idly by. He pours the rest of the water to boil a piece of bark well. I'm hungry. I'm wildly hungry, the farmer thinks to himself. But he can't eat alone. He has to feed his children, at least his family. Although the children don't want to eat this disgusting food, they abandon his hard work, and all the food spills out of the bowl. Feeling that he is not appreciated, he starts to beat them. But he soon realizes that he has become someone he never wanted to be. It was not he who hit the child. He would not have raised his hand to his child. He hadn't eaten normal food for a long time because of the poor harvest year, so he became so nervous. But his life cannot be like that. As time went on, there were periods of bad harvest years, and the number of farmers experiencing hunger grew, and the world plunged into famine. And fighting, I felt hunger. Every swing of the dagger should be a gesture of hunger. And only when you feel hungry can you feel energy. Even hunger has its own gestures. As Kim continued to train, he became stronger and stronger and felt what the demoness was telling him. It all came down to the fact that hunger really has its own gestures, filled with the moaning of the hungry, hand gestures and foot movements. Remember everything. These gestures were similar to the way a farmer treated his future, unborn child. Complete and consolidate these memories in your head. Make them your only aspiration. This was the farmer's gesture when he left the house and threw the bark in the yard. Follow the urge of hunger and control your sword only through hunger and this gesture. The farmer handed the dirty bark to the children when he returned home. Some farmers beat their children, while others stroke their cheeks and whisper apologies. Some farmers live to see the next year, while others die with their children. All gestures were influenced by feelings of hunger, and the devil's divine energy technique is the first form of the hunger sword. Soon Kim, feeling this enormous power in his hands, mastered the feeling of hunger, and his sword began to fence on a completely different level. This is hunger, but it is also lust. Exhausted Kim, dripping with sweat, surrendered to his heart. But there was only one but. His movements were still clumsy. The spirit kept calling him a psycho. But why did it call him that? He was clearly practicing according to the instructions given to him. Covering his face, the spirit said that people are even scarier when they don't understand anything at all. Then a crazy person like you shouldn't squeeze so hard, the spirit said. Kim belongs to a righteous faith, and his movements and techniques belong to a demonic sect. Paying attention to his words, Kim asked, "How else can I understand this? What does it even mean?" But the spirit noticed that Kim did not understand what he was talking about. In short, a Marima master uses demonic art. To be more precise, a master of righteous faith knows nothing but how to use demonic art. The spirit was nervous about this. How can I teach you my martial art if you don't understand the basic principles, he thought. You'll reject me if I share with you the system that Grandpa Marcus was taught. But the boy was so hungry that at that moment he was only thinking about the chocolate cake. What was he thinking about? He decided to go down for a while to show what he could do. Why would he do that? What would he gain from it? In Kim's mind, it was too early, because he was just getting close to his divine devil energy technique. He should commit suicide and return to the heavenly demon for further training. In the spirit's opinion, Kim had shown hope, but only received this reaction. Nevertheless, Kim believed that he had not yet achieved anything. He has no idea how desperate and angry he was when the heavenly demon ignored him, saying that he never spoke. By the way, our hero is quite vindictive, and a simple acknowledgement never satisfies him. All Kim wants in his way is for the sky demon to be impressed. He wants to hear her reaction, that he's so talented he's about to explode. She could not even imagine that he was her destiny. You can see that her eyes were clouded. She was sorry. As he walked away, he had only one thought about it, which was as sweet as a chocolate cake. And the rear spirit was shocked by this psycho. But as he walked away, Kim felt something as he mastered the technique. If we compare him with people of that generation, we can say that he was not starving, even though he imagines a farm where bark is harvested, but still has no idea what kind of bark and how it can be boiled. He is going to fill in the missing fragments of his imagination, and, approaching the full moon, he decides to use the technique of resurrecting evil spirits. Out of several thousand summoned, he fills one skeleton with memory. It was the demoness from the previous chapters whom he summoned. She greeted him, asking what he had called her for. He had a task for her, and she was waiting for his orders. The fact is that this world is filled with ghosts and corpses wandering between life and death. It resembles an empire of shadows, and it was the time when Kim wanted to destroy it. His order was very simple: to disperse throughout the territory, to collect the corpses of all those who died of starvation. There are villages and farms nearby. Find all the corpses and bring them here. These corpses are moving, so there may be a little trouble, but they will crush them in large numbers. The demon queen asked how many corpses to get. The thin and holy Kim, illuminated by the moonlight like a vampire, asked for 112 corpses. He wanted to study their hunger, so that he could become closer to the heavenly demon. The demon queen was amazed at the number of bodies. In her opinion, it was too much. In a few days, Kim lost so much weight that he was almost unrecognizable. Kim looked at her as she knelt before him. How could she become so devoted? To this, the demon queen replied that if he disappeared, she would disappear as well. She could no longer live in such a small paradise. Her life, her memories, and her very raison d'etre would disappear without a trace. She was completely dependent on her master, and worried not only about herself, but also about his well-being. Hearing these words, Kim liked her honesty. He asked the demoness how she was doing. After getting exclusive rights to the 20th floor, he let her go to the village. Now she lives there, and the people she brought back so much have come back too. So he asks her how she is doing. His plan was to leave her in the village except when he needed her to do his work. To this, the evil spirit replies that everything is fine and nothing special has happened. But if he asks about the events, one day some hunters came to the village. They said that when the King of Death became strong, the hidden treasures of the 5 guilds were there. However, a witch brought by the king and the hunters who followed her blocked their way, so they could not realize their plan. And this was expected from the Black Dragon Guild. Their services are impeccable. The feudal kingdom bordering them has kept their distance since they survived a measles epidemic and nomadic attacks. Kim sees that things are going well in this world. Not to mention that the Empire has declared his village a sacred place where elves sometimes come and bring their gifts. But the fact is that the evil spirit has lost its power. The sick who have heard the rumors, as well as pilgrims who want to see a miracle, keep coming. But what should the evil spirit do? And at this point Kim remembers the alchemist's words that she would only sell the potion to those who are allowed by the King of Death. He has a great idea. After the expedition, he wants to build a pharmacy for the alchemy master on the 20th floor. She said herself that she will accept new customers, but only with his permission. Because of this, he needs to make sure that the flow of customers is organized. She can't handle the workload alone, so she needs employees. The best option is to hire a preta as an assistant, and even apprentices will have to be accepted. Beginners, hunters, pharmacists. This will increase the size of the pharmacy. The new pharmacy will be transformed into a branch of the Castle of Alchemy. Later, the branch will become the headquarters of the castle. Kim also asked what else was new. Besides this, there is Dazina. Dazina is a girl from her village. She liked the food that the hunters brought. And Graz, the old man who takes care of the garden, gives the fruit to the black dragon hunters who guard the village. In general, Kim notices that things are going quite well on the 20th floor, and he thinks so too. But he needs to help people from this world. So he orders the evil spirit to quickly collect the corpses and bring them here. She replies, "Of course, the evil spirit was the leader of this mission." She ordered her skeleton servants to first find a town or village with a government office. These work as local officials, and because of this, there must be a map there. A simple map would be enough to use to determine the location. By combining all the maps into one, they will be able to find even the most remote farming and fishing villages. This girl was a fallen constellation, the queen of the autumn rain demons, who once destroyed the whole world. She understands perfectly well how to collect death. She did not order her skeletons to bring sobbing children lying next to the corpses of their mothers, like wild plants withering away. The bodies of people cursing their dead mothers for failing to fulfill their parental duties. Those who could not get out because of the barbed wire, and criminals imprisoned in cells that did not even have a chance to escape. All these carefully selected 112 corpses were brought by the Queen of Autumn Rain to her lord. Kim takes off his t-shirt and asks the girl to order them all to be released on him. After taking off his shirt, he is about to fight them and says, "Come here, my little ones." From all sides, zombies attack him and start biting his flesh. Kim doesn't even resist, because he has to die from each one to know their will. Over time, he recreates the injuries of his dying enemies. One man who was sailing in the boat did not want to harm this world because he was becoming a zombie. He didn't mind dying in the vast expanse, as he was born in a fishing village and worked there all his life. Floating in this space, he was overtaken by a dead silence, and Kim recognized his story. The next death was of the town mayor, and he recreates the traumas of his former enemy. The mayor stands still, looking into the distance. A servant comes to him and says that the granary is empty. In 2 weeks there will not be a handful of cereal left, and there is not enough fish. "What should we do?" the servant asks. The mayor says that the rations for the elderly and children should be cut by 1/3 and for the young by half. But their people will be outraged. The mayor replies that he will be the first to die of starvation, and if the leader does not eat a single crumb, the discontent will fall on him. In any case, the settlement would not last long, and starvation would not change anything. Kim also recognized his pain and suffering. The children were next, and the system reproduces their traumas. In the circle of their family, they said that soon everyone would die because the mayor said that children should not eat. He was signing them up for starvation. But what should they do then? The girl bravely declares that if they are destined to die, they must eat before they die, even if they die like sick Ghanaians. She has learned a secret recipe from the vagrants. The dish is called clay biscuits, and these biscuits are made of mud. She tells the children who can swim to continue fishing and not to share their catch with the adults, keeping everything for themselves so they can eat later. Others should dig in the soft ground near the river. One girl asked what she was going to do, and this girl decided to show her. It was quite a scary vision. These children were fierce, and looking at what they did, they were happy that they had succeeded. Despite this, the mud had dried in the sun, and how could she think it was a cookie? She told them that there was a secret recipe handed down by a sect of vagabonds, and to look closely. If it is ready, then let this boy try it, but you have to be careful when eating. And they decided to try these mud cookies. If they don't taste good right away, they can keep them and nibble on them slowly. And soon these children tasted the cookies, and they were still edible. Some of them liked the salty flavor, but they had to take a little bite. They sat and ate, but soon they saw a boat near the riverbank with a dead body in it. It seemed that he had died while sailing. The children even felt sorry for him and wondered who he was. But soon this corpse came back to life, and he started to chase them, to run after them. They tried to survive. They endured hunger pangs to survive, and they reached for life with all their strength. Their fingers dug mud out of the river, and their hands smeared the mud on the stones to dry it in the sun. Their fingertips greedily clung to these mud biscuits to stay alive. These are all gestures of hunger, and having recognized and accepted all these traumas, the system even decided to check with Kim to see if he had kept his own, since the fine was complete. After these harsh manipulations, he woke up in the snow. At first, he thought he would learn how to cook tree bark or something like that, but the reality surpassed his imagination, and he started digging in the snow with his hands. He was amazed that the tree bark was too good. In a desperate situation, people can even eat mud with their bare hands. It's so hard. Digging in the ground, he dug up some mud and started eating it. The sun was shining, and it was even strange that he came out. But the mud cookies were already made according to the recipe of those children. Kim had no choice but to try the cookies, wishing himself a pleasant appetite. He took a bite with his dirty hands. He could not taste any flavor. For in this life, as in the lives of those people, there was no flavor. Everything starts with the dirt of the earth, so why can't they eat the same dirt? Why is the smell and taste of the earth so terrible for people? Then Kim had a brilliant idea. Emotions that are difficult to express in words can be expressed with the hands. Martial arts is all about simply wielding what is left in his hand. He picks up his shiny sword and is about to turn back. When he comes back, he will show his sword to the heavenly demon, letting her see the sword of the one who died namelessly. At that moment, when the heavenly demon threw down only one zombie, she said that if he defeated this zombie, she would accept him as her disciple. His task is to fight while feeling hungry. After going through all the memories of poor people who were hungry and in pain, he needs to understand the principle behind the cries and pains of these people. Taking his sword, he showed the demoness who he really was. His sword was filled with the will of heaven. It was just the hand gestures of people rejected by heaven, the anger and resentment that makes everything demonic, the smell and taste of earth in your mouth, the feeling of dirt on your fingertips, a mixture of the demonic and the heavenly, because he looks at the heavens with anger and resentment. When he comes to himself, the guy is filled with the divine energy of the first form of the devil, a hungry sword that destroys everything in its path. And this girl realizes that he is indeed a heavenly demon. After an easy battle for him, with a smile on his face, he asks the demoness who else he needs to kill.